All right. I think we're on. Dave, welcome everybody to.
Where's the intro?
Oh
wait, wrong show.
I need to get a video. No, this is Tech Talk, not Tone Talk. Slightly different.
Oh, whoops.
But we will need to get a video for sure. So, welcome, Dave. How are you, mate? How's your day been? You had a busy day? Another busy day?
Yeah, amps, more amps.
Keep it rolling.
Pedalboards, more amps.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things I wanted to ask straight up, and I no doubt a few people in the chat would want to know, is how's Mark? And I had seen that he posted on his Facebook earlier in the week that he'd kind of passed out on the floor. So I'm assuming this is just a bit of a
I think Mark's okay. I mean, he's just not feeling 100% yet, and so
yeah.
He's still having some residual stuff, but everything's testing out okay. So I think it's all good.
Awesome. Well, we'll get to we've got a few.
Just jumped over to Jason's channel because Jason and I were talking about doing one of these, and I'm like, hey, so happens Tone Talk's canceled tonight, so why not? Let's just do it.
I
was actually prepared to do it, so.
Yeah, well, I messaged you yesterday, I think, suggesting that we do this in a couple of weeks' time. And so when I woke up this morning to see your message saying, well, how about like now? It's like, okay, let's go for it.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? Right. We got a few people that are into it early. That's good. Hey, Justice, thank you. My super chat, nice and early. Before we get into too many questions, Dave, I know we want to talk about the main sponsor of Tone Talk. So Fix Pedalboards, guys, so fixpedalboards.com. I'm actually just going to bring it up on the screen here, and we'll have a look because Dave's actually got some product from the Fix Pedalboards guys in his hands that we want to have a look at.
Yeah, well, thanks for letting me do this too on here since we just kind of moved it over, So Fix Pedalboards does, if someone's not familiar or if you've been watching our show, you already know this, but Fix Pedalboard does pedalboard accessories and stuff, and they also happen to do all our metal work, all our chassis and things for Friedman. But they do a lot of pedalboard accessories, like like those little magnet hinged lifts that are on the left there on the screen.
Yep.
And a fixed pedalboard bridge and little pedal risers and power supply brackets, everything you could possibly want to mount your crapto pedalboard. Well, more stuff coming. So I'm just giving a little sneak preview. There is going to be junction boxes for pedalboards coming from Tim, and the junction box here's a little one. This is a little 4-banger. There's no jacks in this one right at the moment. This is just the chassis. Little 4-banger, really low profile.
Nice.
Here's one with jacks. Little 2-banger. You got the 6-1.
Cool.
We have kind of a stacked 4-1, and then we have stacked 8, stacked 12. You really have a lot of connections, and
so you can mount 1/4-inch sockets in those things.
Well, they will be stuffed with sockets. So this one is right now. These I just had here, but he has sockets and stuff that are going to go in it. So. Going to be a nifty little thing. There's a couple other accessories that he's doing for pedal train boards for people that have those, and also these can mount to pedal trains and things like that to make it a more useful product than it is.
Yeah, totally.
So that's all coming shortly.
That's
so you
awesome.
Got the first sneak peek.
Yeah, that's always good. Always good to get that.
Get these
and all the stuff that's here, Dave. So if I just bring this back up again. These kind of add-ons, kind of the the bridge mounts and the pedal risers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They all kind of plug and play with the new pedalboards that you've got.
They do. They can. You can mount things on our pedal boards. You can mount these on temple boards or pedal train boards or a flat board that you have. You can mount those risers. Those risers are really cool. It's a hinged. It's a magnetic latch, and it's hinged. So let's say you have a pedal board with a switcher on it or something, and you have some pedals that are hidden underneath the thing. You can get at them and stuff. It's really cool.
That's awesome.
Stuff I use, all the time because I build pedal boards and rigs for people and have for a million, way too long.
And that's the kind of thing where like someone's going to bring in an existing board and they don't want to get rid of their base board. They want to add some bits onto it, right? So
or they bring in a flat board and they need this pedal raised up a little bit in the back. There's individual pedal risers that you can screw to the board, or different things, different heights and different sizes for different pedals. On their site, it just shows you all that stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got a bunch of questions already coming in, but
Ben Coombs is here.
Yeah, let's go through this. Right, so this is
slowly, as people realize that we're not doing the Tone Talk thing, even though we posted a bunch of spots. Someone actually texted me, I'm not sure who, that said there's people still waiting over on the Tone Talk page. So if anyone is near that, go tell them to come over here.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to happen.
I don't have that up right now, so I can't look at it.
It's all right. Here's some names I recognize from
John DeShane.
Hello. John, yeah, I recognize that. Got Scott, legendary Scott Kingman. He's a fellow Aussie. What do you got going on, Scott? Working on a Plexi build with you two in the background. Cold beer, soldering iron. Yeah.
Well, I have this client of mine and friend of ours, Michael Torin.
Oh, yeah.
Michael, of Michael.
Yeah, Michael for sure.
So he gave me for the holidays, he gave me the hang on. What this is was a whiskey little, you each day you get a whiskey.
Yeah, this is like
like the little Christmas thing with the candy, but you get a whiskey bottle instead. So you get like, a little whiskey bottle right here. And it just so happens I pulled one out for the show, and it's from Australia. Nice. It's from Australia. Yeah.
Whereabouts?
I don't know what it is. I don't know. It just says the origin.
I don't know it. I'm not an expert on this stuff, but I do know there's
I don't know either.
There's some pretty good whiskey that's coming from Tasmania. So if anyone knows, if you can kind of imagine the Australian continent, the mainland, there's a little island down the back, right down south. Tasmania, still part of Australia, but they certainly distill some pretty good whiskey down there. Sure. Let's go through some of this stuff. So Ben's saying, we've got, he's put a link to this back into the Tone Talk chat.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Good on you, mate.
I mean, we tried to let everyone know on all the platforms, but, we thought we'd just move it over. And hey, Kyle, how are you?
Hey, mate. Kyle's actually just taken delivery of an Alpha 100 that he's going to review on the channel. So I'm very eager to hear what you think of it, Kyle. You need to keep me up to date, mate. Definitely. So, Dave, I've got a question here straight up for you.
Uh-oh.
Here we go. What are your thoughts on the Soldano Hot Rod 50 Plus?
Well, it can be, with a few changes, an SLO. Essentially, it's basically an SLO circuit with a few changes. So, literally a few minor changes, and you can have an SLO out of it, and it can sound really good. So pretty cool. Probably a good bargain too, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know how much they're going for these days. I've lost track of what things are going for these days, because everything seems to be going for way more than it used to.
Definitely. Have you ever had a tinker with the Jet City, any of the Jet City amps as well?
Oh, a lot. Yeah.
What do you
I
think?
used to mod the original JCA 20.
Yeah, good
The
platform.
single channel.
Yeah.
I used to mod with some, BE channels in them and stuff. Did a ton of them. They came out great. I mean, they were a really good platform. And recently, I think I kind of tweaked one of the channel switching. So basically the SLO version of it, the channel switching version of it, and I tweaked that just to be kind of proper SLO spec, kind of maybe a little tighter. And that one came out awesome. I mean, like,
because those
really
20s are actual. Well, it's a single channel amp, isn't it? But some of them are still using the LDRs, and some of them are relay based, aren't they? I can't
no,
remember
most
which.
all the channel switching ones are relay based
They're all relays, are they?
for Dead City. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, the little 20 came out great. I think I did a few other tweaks to it, but it was basically the SLO circuit.
Nice one.
I can't quite remember, but I remember going, wow, this is good.
Yeah, look, the 20s, I reckon, are a great platform. So you often see a question asked. In fact, someone posted something in one of the Tube Amp groups on Facebook this morning that I saw asking about whether the 20 would be a good pickup as a modding platform.
Yeah, it's really good. It's a hell of a lot easier than an Origin.
Yeah, bloody oath.
I mean, it's way easier than an Origin
because you don't need to rebuild the circuits path.
No, it's basically there, so
you can just tinker the values. Yeah,
you tinker the values, and you have space, and it's easy to get in and out of, and
yeah,
so
absolutely. Dave, is it possible to buy 2x12 closed back ported cab unloaded direct from boutique amps?
Yeah, it's possible. Sure.
Yeah.
I don't have a price for you, but it's possible.
How would they get in contact with you or with boutique?
Yeah, if it's one of my cabinets, for sure, just get in contact with me.
Yeah, too easy.
Something like that. Yep.
All right. What's this, Carl? Is that why you're not playing my amp at the moment? You're tinkering with your Les Paul. Is that right? Here's an unusual request, Dave. I don't know whether you've been asked this before. Can we watch you work on an amp?
Oh no,
I don't like that.
So I guess I guess.
I don't mind showing the end result. I'm not so keen on showing you how I did, like, in real time. Yeah.
That's an interesting thought. Never done that, but man, some of them take a really long time.
Well, this is it. I mean, and particularly when you're into something that you haven't done before, you don't know how long it's going to take. So,
yeah, well, or some unexpectedly take way too long. So I had someone send me recently Sorry, I had to look at something.
That's all right.
Okay, never mind. I recently had a guy that sent me like an old, it was early 70s Marshall, 69 or 70, 71 or something. It had already been ripped to pieces and built and holes.
It had a lot of work on it.
Yeah, over time it was kind of half stock, half not. And
did it still have the original board in it?
Oh yeah, original board, half the original parts or more. Yep. Almost all the original parts, and the original transformers and everything, but like it was a wreck.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so you got to start pulling out the stuff that was done to it over time and pulling all that stuff out. I knew what he wanted to do to it. He wanted essentially like a Jose three-way in it, and three-way mod, but with my updated specs of it and a little saturation switch as an option with the post master, not the pre. And but first I had to sort of get the amp healthy.
Yeah, yeah,
So the tubes
absolutely
that were sent,
essential.
one tube was dead, so those tubes are gone. The preamp tubes too are also like a mismatch of stuff, just awful. The
Did you have to recap
yes, it needed filter caps badly.
it? Yeah,
It needed bias caps. It
yeah.
needed new screen grid resistors because there was about 3-4 brands in there. It needed I wound up finding a few vintage parts that I put back in places that I could. Had to just basically, and half of the wiring off the board was all mucked up, so I had to rewire that to pots. I had to replace some pots. I probably had I charged 4 hours of time to just put it back.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Well, it would take that
really, I
long.
might have had longer than that into it.
Yeah, well,
And
yeah.
and then we kind of start with the mod.
You absolutely need to strip it back and give it a clean bill of health. I found because I kind of been restoring a bunch of those old Marshalls over the last couple of years as well, and I've been surprised at how many times I've found a short-circuited choke. Actually, for 2 or 3 times.
I've never found that in a Marshall. I found that
Yeah,
in a Fender Twin.
have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think twice it's happened, maybe not 3 times, and it takes a bit to find it because you just assume that the choke's going to be okay. I don't know, like you look at filter caps and all the rest of it, but if that choke's not working, you've got ripple on the screen supply, hum badly. I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's exactly what I experienced on this one Twin. And the funny thing is, on this one Twin, I think I brought this up on another show, but on this one Twin I worked on, it was an old blackface Fender Twin, and someone had owned it forever, a client of mine, and brought it in. I'm thinking I'm going to sell it. I don't use it, and I don't know. It needs to be healthy though, so. And I started investigating, and someone had added a couple extra filter caps in there and stuff. And I go, "What is all this garbage? This is just a Fender Twin. This doesn't need to be here." And I'm like, "But wow, listen to the hum. What's going on?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's recapped now, and it's freshened up, and the tubes are good, and everything, and it's just like humming. I'm like, "What's going on?" And then I kind of kept narrowing it down, and then finally, I read the voltage from one side of the choke to the other side of the choke, and there was no voltage drop at all.
This is it.
And I'm like, oh, the choke's bad. I tacked in another choke that I just had whatever I had laying around. Oh yeah, that's quiet.
And then dead quiet. Silence, right?
Yeah. So I ordered the proper choke for it, and then and then it was just like, I've never seen that in 25 years.
I was so
just popped up.
It took me ages to find. The first time it happened to me, I just couldn't. I kept going back to the same, thinking I can't bloody figure out what the problem is. I eventually put the meter on AC, Dave, the fluke meter, and I found it's a nice little trick, right? Because if you put your meter on AC and you put it on the mains filter, you'll get you'll measure maybe 2, 3, 4 volts, 5 volts, maybe. Something like that. And then you move it to the screen supply after the choke, and you'll measure almost none.
Right.
And if it's short-circuited, you'll measure the same on both sides, right? So that was the kind of the dead giveaway in the end. Someone's got Steve chasing a head first Kelly 50. Get it, man. Go for it. If I'm not sure where you are, Stephen. If you're in the States, I'm only aware of one. Certainly built by me anyway. And it was in San Diego. I don't know where it is now. But there's only one built by me in the US that I'm aware of. Might be quite a few DIY ones, but it's not built by me anyway. Question about Friedman guitars here, Dave, at Sweetwater. Not listed. Supply issues?
We are about to get them all back in stock. Yes, when we did our transition from rock and roll, from Grover, who moved to Nashville, to then Billy from Rock and Roll Relics, he was making guitars for us. Still, they never went out of production. It's just that the quantity was so low
Yeah.
that it didn't seem like they ever got into anyone's, hands. Now we've actually started working with yet someone else, and I'm really excited about these guitars now because they are the newest ones, at least in the Cali and the NoHo range, are way beyond anything we've ever done.
Really?
Crazy paint jobs and crazy fretwork, just immaculate, where you could just shiny, it's all can be, perfect edges and everything. Finally, everything the way I really wanted it.
Yeah, wow. Because, man, I had a...
Unfortunately,
yeah, go for
stuff
it.
has gotten more expensive.
Yeah, wow.
And I hate to say it, man, it is really, really difficult to make a USA-made guitar for a low price.
Oh, yeah, I would imagine it's completely impossible.
I mean, unless you're... even Fender doesn't make it at a low price. I mean, not the high end USA guitars are very expensive.
No, exactly.
It's really hard, and you got to understand. You got to look at it. I've brought this up a million times before. The traditional model is you're a manufacturer, then you sell these to stores.
Yep.
So there's a store cut and a percentage that a store makes. And
absolutely,
and there's your dead cost, and then there's you have to actually make some money, because otherwise, why are you doing this at all? But believe me, that it starts slimming down real fast, because there's so much more to, you realize that, like, if you do financing through a store, we wind up paying as a manufacturer for part of your financing.
No way. Really?
So if you're financing a guitar through, say, Sweetwater or something,
yeah,
we get billed back for part of that financing, and it's a considerable amount.
Well, there you go.
So it's not just all cut and dry. It's like, what is the percentages that everyone's getting, and it just starts whittling away at it. It makes it almost virtually impossible to make. At a reasonable price, it's impossible.
Here's a question.
You're going traditional.
Yeah, traditional. Well, I was going to ask you about
not
direct.
Doing only direct. Well,
do you think you can do both? Do you think you can do direct and retail? Can the two models coexist, I guess?
Can you do direct? Yes, but it's not going to be for a reduced price, because that can't coexist. You know what I mean? So
it has to be the same price, yeah.
Yeah,
you can't undercut the retailers. Yeah, it just doesn't work, does it?
It doesn't work, and there's other issues too. It's like, if you go that way and it doesn't work out for you, or you didn't have the infrastructure to make it happen, you can't really go the other way again.
Yeah,
it's like done then.
You might burn some bridges. So
it's a delicate operation. But I can tell you, they're crazy, some of these finishes. I can't wait to show some of them.
Well, I can't wait, because I had a friend of mine bought around one of the Grover Friedman guitars. It was a Tele, like a deluxe with the 2-volume, 2-tone, 3-way switch, and it had P90s in it. And the reason it was here, because he got me to swap pickups over in it. But that guitar, from the moment I picked it up, I was just like, oh, it just felt
worn in great.
It felt like an old guitar, Yeah. Just had that warm feel about it just instantly. I was like, oh, man, I just wanted it.
I agree. So, well, there's some crazy finishes that we've done that are pretty insane. Some pretty insane gaudy sparkle finishes and different things that are, appeal to a lot of people, but they're really striking looking.
And are they kind of got the relic theme going on
there? Some yes, and we're also doing a variety of clean ones for all the people that always hated the relic ones. So so we can now have the ability to do these crazy clean finishes, and you should see some of them. They're really killer.
Can't wait.
So yes, you're gonna see Sweetwater probably restock them stuff soon.
Awesome. We've got a question here about the BE100 Deluxe, Dave. Recommended settings on the switches for a more raw upper mid buzzer. It's a buzzer tone.
Buzzer tone, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Upper mid raw. Well, might like the C45 on.
Yeah.
That might. I mean, that's. I mean, for me, to be honest, like, you know, the BE channel and or with the C45 switch on is really kind of where I live. It's then just about where you're going to set your a negative feedback switch, your response switch. You know, how bright, how pushed you want it, or how sweet you want it, or, you know, how you. It's tough to just say, and also it's hard to decipher what buzzer tone is. Exactly. You know, if you, I mean, it's plenty bright now.
Yeah, so you'd have the voicing switch in the middle, right?
In the middle for sure.
Right?
If you wanted a brighter tone, you'd also. I mean, the frequency switch, you maybe if you didn't want so much low mid, you might have it to the left. It's a little deeper. As far as the response switch, kind of to taste, I personally like it to the right. But if you'd like a full on assault of the middle, go for that.
Is the right? Is that
47K?
It's a three-way negative feedback switch. Yeah. So
right, the right is around 47K negative feedback off a 4-ohm tap.
4-ohm, yeah.
And the other one's more like 100K off a 4-ohm. And
that'd be pretty lively.
Yeah, you definitely wouldn't want the fat on or anything like that. I mean, you could mess with the saturation if that's something you like. But I mean, like, you set everything at half, you should be able to get it pretty rocking.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
definitely. Here we got a super chat from Omega Zero. Thank you, Omega Zero. Much appreciated. So the Pink Taco 2 cathode bias, Dave, is it true that no service is needed when changing tubes? That's the first part of the question.
Yes. Just get new tubes and drop them in.
You just want a match set.
You want to as well matched as possible, because a cathode biased EL84 amp, if they're mismatched, it will hum.
Yeah.
Just like a Vox amp or something like that. Yeah. So a good match, generally speaking, we run those tubes really hard. So you want some JJs in there, or the new PS Vane EL84s have actually, the new PS Vane EL84s sound better than the JJs. And they are seemingly so far holding up well.
Cool. I've only tried the new. I know there's more to the question here, and we'll get to that. But the PS Vanes, Dave, I've only tried the EL34s, which I thought
those are good.
Great, yeah. But
those sound great.
I don't have any EL84 amps here to test.
But yeah, the PS Vane EL84s sound. I mean, when I put them in one of my little amps, I'm like going, "Oh, I like that much better than the JJs actually." So the tone's better. It's cooler. It's hard to explain what it is, but so
second part of the question, can I just drop the new tubes in when it's time? Well, yeah, as long as it's matched, right? I think there's maybe a bit of a misconception that some people have, that because it's cathode bias, you can just jam any old tubes from your spare bin. No, they've got to be matched still.
Yeah, you still need a matched pair. I always tell people with EL84 amps, I would buy a matched quad. Yeah, and then you know, and then you have your spare set sitting there,
and you can put one at a time in, I guess, on that basis, right?
You could, you could, but generally speaking, I mean, those amps, my 21 amps, I cooled down the V2 just a little bit on the bias from the older ones, but they run them beyond their capacity, really. But so do Vox amps, and so do everything else. That's why they sound good. So
the PT, there's no negative feedback in that amp. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah, nice and lively, right?
Well, that got well, we cool that down too, though, so it's not so bright. I mean, that came from originally when I very first did that amp. I'm like going, I love these old Marshall 20-watt amps. They sound
that's
killer.
cool, man. That's a
Sound
1974 X kind of that.
yeah, it's really simple.
The
It's
lead and bass 20. That
lead and the lead and bass 20, the lead circuit 20.
Yeah.
When those are cranked up, they sound awesome. They sound just great. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to start with that as a power section. And what if I put my front end on that? What is that going to be like? And then that's what became
was the original Pink Taco the first 20-watt amp that you did? The original one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the first one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and the first one literally was verbatim the exact power section of an old 20-watt. Over time, we've tweaked the phase inverter a little bit.
Yep.
I mean, the early ones, I don't even see them anymore that early that I'm talking. So, and what everyone knew to be the Pink Taco now is, except this new V2 version, it's brighter, more aggressive, but it still has this really squishy feel to it.
I haven't heard one in person, but I've certainly listened to the clips. That sounds great, that amp.
Yeah, Michael Nielsen knocked it out of park on that one, huh?
That's really good, right?
Just like, whoa.
Pete's demo even sounded great too. It just sounded just straight from the first kind of carang, the first chord.
He kept it.
Did he?
He kept the amp. Yeah, he kept the very one that you did. Yeah, he goes, I think I want this one.
It's a good sign.
Yeah.
The last part of this question, Dave, is how often should I have them checked out by a tech, power tubes?
I mean, you don't really have to have them checked out by a tech. So here's basically the thing: if they're causing some noise, or they're crackling, or they're glowing crazy cherry red, and you hear crackling, it's time to change them.
Yeah.
Other than that, if you don't hear any basic hum or anything going on, and it seems to be functioning properly, and you just leave them.
You just keep them going. I think there's the tube manufacturers like to tell us that we need to replace them.
I mean, off the top of my head, I would say replace them every 6 months on that kind of amp.
Yeah, if in terms of reliability, they run pretty hot.
But also, I mean, how much do you use it?
Yeah.
So if you say, oh, I use it once a week for an hour, well, it's probably going to last a really long time. If you say I use it every single night, for a couple hours set or something, well, that's a whole different story. But it doesn't hurt to have some spares. They're not that expensive. So, I mean, well, they've gotten more expensive, but
yeah,
tubes have gotten a little insane. I had to retube 2 Fender Super Bassman amps, which are the bass amps, the newer ones that are basically SVT. So 6 KT88s, one in each amp.
This is
that was costly.
You had some other amps a while back, and some old Ampegs and so on that were like that too, right? 6.
Yeah, that's pretty normal for the old, SVTs and things like that.
Yeah,
but
expensive retube.
Extremely. It always was an expensive retube. It's through the roof now for big bottle tubes like that. It's like, wait, how much is it per tube? Oh,
because you don't often see matched 6s.
You can get them.
Yeah, hunt around.
I got them from CE.
Okay, CE, cool.
Yeah.
What do you know about orange amps, Dave? I know not much at all, to be honest. I'm kind of Marshall all day. Too much. I know techniques to dial out fizziness, but I don't know this particular TH100. Do you know that circuit?
I don't really know what the circuit is, and in my experience of newer ones, the way the boards are in there and stuff, it's really hard to work on. I mean, you could probably do something to smooth it out that kind of darkens the whole amp a bit, and that might take some of the fizziness away, but I don't know that one in particular, unless it was the one I just worked on a while back and I couldn't do anything with it. I just told the guy, sorry.
Yeah,
just the way it is.
Totally.
Call orange.
Yeah. Favorite sounding classic amp mods You want to go first, Dave?
Classic amp mods. So, like, are we talking full-on mods? Like
I
gain
think
mods?
it could be anything, whatever your favorite. Like,
I mean, like,
classic amp,
you
I'm
know,
going to
you
go
could be
Marshall, right?
a
But-
mod could be a slight
Mm.
variation of a circuit, of a stock circuit or something. But I mean, classic amp mods. I mean, like, I still think like Jose Arredondo was one of the. I mean, I can't believe how far advanced in reality that mod was for the time.
Agree.
I mean, far better sounding than the Lee Jackson mods that I've had my hands in. Never really loved those very much. There wasn't there's that many. I mean, Soldano would do occasionally some Marshall mods that would sound great. Actually, it's basically an SLO, single channel SLO circuit, but the first stage is not the SLO circuit, it's the Marshall circuit. So it's the 2.7.68 cap at the beginning. And the rest is essentially the SLO circuit, but that change at the beginning really makes it sound different. 100%. I mean, that was a cool mod. Some of the stuff Frank Levi did was pretty cool. I mean, it was reasonably archaic for the time, but pretty cool. That slash number 34 thing.
The 34 mod is pretty
it's pretty good. It's bright,
pretty chaotic, right? But it's not. It sits well in a mix too. It's because it's just got that cut about it.
Really bright.
Yes, super.
The original amp, which I've worked on several times, over the years. When you turn it on, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot.
It's take your head off bright.
It's extremely
0.1 microfarad cap over the 10K.
Yeah, that and coupled with 6550s in it and all this stuff, and it was it sounded cool though. I mean, it's cool sounding.
I'm sure when it's cranked, it would sound fantastic.
Yeah, it's cool for sure. And if you ever notice that mod, so over the 10K, but on the gain, right? So think about the gain pot. So it's the 800 gain pot, right? But when there's a 100K off the wiper to ground after.
Yep.
And so when that gain pot's all the way up, it's a 470K, 470 picofarad with 100K to ground. So it's like cutting, a lot of gain, but it's also loading the circuit. So there's less low end there and it's tighter and everything. Definitely. And then he's adding more gain across the 10K with the 0.1 cap and a few other little variations. Kind of all makes sense.
Yeah. You got to have everything in balance, right? You find if you put in bypass caps over a cathode that resistor that didn't have one before, say, and then all of a sudden that stage is generating a crap load more gain, you inevitably got to make a change somewhere else in the circuit to compensate. Otherwise, it just blows up.
It sounds like just an overloaded a fuzz box, overloaded fuzz box.
Exactly.
If you just leave the stock 800 front end and then just add that cap, it's just too much. You can't. I mean, it might be okay with the gain down 5 or 6, but if you try to get the gain up in the high registers, just turns into a fuzz box.
Yeah. And particularly if you've got a hardwired bright cap over that gain pot, then there's a limit to how far you can bring it down anyway, right? Before it starts to thin out.
I always kind of said that it needed. This is sort of why the fat switch exists on some of my amps.
Mm-hmm.
I have it kind of leaned out on the front end, and it sounds good with the gain all the way to 10, right? And I don't rely on the bright cap on the gain as you turn it down. But often when you turn it down, it starts to sound a little on the thin side. So that's where that fat cap comes in.
Interesting.
And then it fattens up and fills it out, and then you have the tone back, So
yeah, cool.
sort of
Cool. I
the
thought of it that way
concept.
because I'd only really thought about the fat cap with respect to like, moving to a Strat or something like that, and you.
Well, yes and no. I mean, if you roll down this, let's say you got a standard B circuit and you roll down the gain to like half, it starts to thin out a little bit. It still sounds good, but it starts to thin out. You might change the EQ a little bit, but sometimes you can just add the fat cap in and still change the EQ some more, and you can get that lower gain fullness you still want.
Yeah, cool.
I mean, the bright caps are always weird for me on volumes. They can be really cool, but there's only a limited range they work. You know, in reality, like it's 6 to 8 that the bright cap's working. Too much lower, if it's a bigger value bright cap, it gets really, you know what it sounds like. It just sounds awful. And and likewise, if you go past 8, then they don't do anything at all. So I don't like relying on that sweet spot. I mean, I like the bright caps maybe as an option, but I don't.
It's nice to make it switchable for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, the favorite sounding, like I love the gain stage in front of a Plexi, that kind of thing, right? Like the BE Dave, But in terms of something really simple, a lot can be done, of course, with just a 2204, 2203 circuit and just some changes with that architecture without necessarily adding extra gain stages.
And that's
like
C45.
Yeah, all that stuff, right? It's just so much can be delivered out of that architecture without having to kind of start drilling holes and putting new tubes in and all that kind of stuff. So I think that would have to be my favorite. Christian here, Justin. Hey, Justin. Anything to share there, Dave? Stories with Akira Takasaki?
Okay, well, Akira does not speak English really at all, except for some words. It was a blast. We filmed a video here with him once, and that was a blast. I, of course, had 2 of my Japanese friends here interpreting and helping film some of it. And I mean, that was just a total blast to do, because the way we had it set up, so we had a cabinet in a separate room from the room that you're picturing in the video. And so it was considerable ways away, and that was mic'd up and recorded properly, And then there in that video shoot, there's two B100 heads. And what we did, because the cabinet was so far away, he wanted like kind of a monitor, so to speak. So we took the line out of the top head that was feeding the cabinet in the live room, right? The line out of the top head, fed it into a reverb pedal, just really set lightly, into the power section of the other head, to that cabinet that was sitting right behind him.
Right.
So he could have it on just a little bit low, and still get the the sound and stuff that he was getting. And that's how we did it. And the fun thing was, I mean, when he just started warming up, your jaw was on the floor. You were just like, holy crap. And then we literally, like, when we were filming this stuff, we called out song names and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And he would just instantly play the riff, of the song and stuff. And so this is what we captured in the video, and it's a killer video. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you could communicate with him a little bit, like, but not so much.
Yeah, I have to go and check it out for sure. Hey,
have you never seen that video?
No, I have to go and look at it.
Oh my God, you have to go. It should be on the Friedman YouTube.
Check it out.
Oh yeah, if you've never seen it, we even tried to cop the tone as much as we possibly could to the classic records.
Yeah, awesome. I showed this to Dave yesterday. Actually, was it yesterday? Day before?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my I'm gonna get it now.
Yeah.
I picked this up local buy to 1978 Greco out of the Fujigen factory, right? So obviously been searching for mid to late 70s Explorer out of that place probably for obvious reasons. And probably don't need to explain why. So,
Well, the Bernie that I showed you, it was out of the same factory.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you reckon it's the best sounding Les Paul that
I've ever had? Yeah, I've ever owned. I'm not really a Les Paul guy, but that one I like.
Yeah. All right. Question here about the Synergy SLO module, Dave. I don't know whether you can answer this one. Could it be modded for crunch and lead instead of 2 lead channels?
Well, there could it be modded? Maybe, but maybe you want to wait a little bit.
There you go. You heard it here first,
because,
guys.
Maybe there's something that will wind up doing exactly what you want with 2 complete channels. So
cool. Yeah, that is cool.
Might be easier.
Yeah. Marshall TV cabs, Dave. Have you ever considered putting that kind of thing into your lineup?
And those cabs are awesome. The ones that Marshall did for a while in the 90s, the tall, the TV tall cabs, those sound awesome. I should.
You should. 100% you should.
I should. Limited run.
Man, get a prototype.
I have a friend of mine that actually has those.
You could get a prototype done, and then you could add it to your Dying IR pack as well. There you go. See, possibilities are endless.
Yeah, for the second Dying IR pack, if that ever happens.
Yeah, exactly. Dave, did you do the final tweaks on the B52 AT100 before it was released?
No. Well, maybe. That's a long time ago.
Can't remember.
Bruce Egnater designed that whole amp. Because there was a first version of a B52 amp that came out, and then he wanted to do a second version, I remember. And then Bruce did that whole version. And I might have done a few tweaks in the end. This was a really long time ago, though. Jesus.
How long are we talking here, man?
Man, that must have been like early 2000s or something.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't when you say it, but then you think about it, you go, oh, yeah, 20 years ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Yeah. So I might have done a few things, I think, in the end. Yeah, some fine-tuning tweaks.
Yeah, cool. Question about the Origin Plexi mod. Yeah, so look, the reason I kind of talked about that on that clip in terms of kind of on a variac, because with the Origin 20, the voltages are super low. All right, so cathode bias EL34, and I think the plate voltage is 275 or something from memory. So as the voltages cascade up through the preamp, they're probably lower than a 100 watt Plexi on a variac already. So you can't actually kind of get the voltages up to make the preamp like it's not on a variac. So if you wanted to do the Plexi mod and have it more like a straight up, Plexi running at wall voltage, my suggestion is you do it on an Origin 50, because that's fixed bias and has 460 on the plates or something like that. It's more like a standard 50 watt Marshall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Kyle. Dave, your tightest amp. B50 model has tightest punch.
They're all, all the BE series amps are very similar in how tight they are. The B100, B50, they're really sort of the same circuits, So, yeah, that's there isn't necessarily a tightest one. I mean, the Butter Slacks is pretty tight. But they're similar circuits, so it's not really like there's that much more low end in one than the other. But if you felt the B50 was the coolest and tightest, then great. Then that's the answer.
It is. I'm 100%. It's product that you tease for release next month? Can you remember what that might have been?
It wouldn't be next month. It might be April.
April. Does that come? Is that a NAMM kind of coinciding with
Well, it's
NAMM?
not technically coinciding with NAMM. It just so happens to be April. Or I think April. No, I can't really. Not yet.
Small, medium, large, heavy, light, loud, quiet.
Light.
Okay, good.
Smaller. Extremely useful.
Oh.
For a variety of guitar players.
Awesome. Well, there you go. Again, you hit it here first.
I will talk the shit out of it as soon as we have it.
When we can. When we can. Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing about it myself. Legendary Tones. Thank you, mate. 2 questions. What's your opinion on plate-driven versus cathode follower tone stacks? Yeah. And opinions on Levi versus Caswell Marshalls. What do you think, Dave?
I don't use a whole lot of plate-driven tone stacks ever. Although I have done a couple mods where I copied some other mods for some people that were plate-driven. There was an old George Lynch had a Bogner modified Marshall, and a really early one, and it was a plate-driven mod. It was a crazy mod, and gain for days, super heavy.
Yeah.
And he wanted me to put it in a different amp, basically the mod, so I had to write it down and copy it and put it in a different amp. And that was cool sounding, man. That was really good. I liked it.
It's a relative. I mean, I've had a few modded Marshalls in here to, kind of restore and perhaps change that have had ripped the cathode follower out, Dave, and turned it into a 4-stage plate fed, circuit. I'm sure you've seen that hundreds of times yourself. They they sound pretty cool. It's a different kind of feel, isn't it? Like, I don't know how to describe it, but it doesn't feel the same to me. Like, it feels like it's a great sounding amp, but it doesn't feel like an old Marshall anymore to me. It just, I don't know, it changes the kind of the DNA of the amp.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's not my favorite thing. And Levi or Caswell Marshalls, well, okay. They both kind of have similar DNA in it, but Caswell had more gain stages. A lot of some of the stuff I saw Frank do in mods was wound up he wound up doing an 800 kind of front end with a kind of the more archaic post phase master added, where they split the caps, and that was actually, that can be pretty cool in certain settings on it. Because it's a very interesting thing about an 800 that people don't really realize. So the 800 just has, so it's very much like a Plexi circuit with just a cool gain stage shoved in between.
100%.
So it's just like a little bit more gain than, let's say, what a Plexi would be, right?
Yeah.
So if you crank a master on an 800 and say you use an attenuator then, and then pull the gain back to say around 6 with the bit bright cap on the thing, it's a pretty great sound, actually. And all of a sudden, it's a much better tone, I think.
Needs the attenuator though, right? Because that is just loud as.
Oh yeah. You need like a power station or something, then you can crank it up.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that's sort of some of the stuff I saw in some of Warren DeMartini's amps, and essentially it was that. And I told him, the front end is basically it's 800.
Did he run the master like right up
on
like
10? That? Yeah.
Holy shit.
And he goes, really? I hate 800s. I go, well, yeah, but an 800 on 10 sounds, it's basically all the Plexi gain with a little bit more added.
Is that kind of how Jakey Lee would run his heads as well, like the 800, 2203 or whatever, or 800?
That's unclear. That's unclear. But knowing how he ran amps, I think he was running them on 10.
There's a fair chance, yeah.
And then again with the gain back at around 6, because then that big bright cap's cutting the low end, and it's really giving some teeth to it.
Yeah,
you know, so that actually works, you know. And when we did his amp, that's why that one channel has an 800 circuit and then a higher gain mode too. Because for him to use it, he would use the Plexi channel on 10.
Yes.
So he did Plexi, and then he just wanted something that was just a smidge more gain. So this is exactly what I was just describing. So we wound up putting the 800 mode on it, so he could run both his masters on 10. Yes, in a club.
And then you've got the higher gain option on channel 2, I guess, if you at lower.
Well, that was more for
volume,
other players if you wanted to use the master down low and stuff.
Yeah. Want all the gain. Yeah. What's your view on post phase inverter master volumes, Dave? In general,
I don't generally like them because I find that when it takes the feedback loop out,
exactly collapses.
It's like feedback. Sometimes it sounds cool down low, but then in the middle it might not sound that good, and then if you get a little higher, it starts to sound good.
It's a tricky thing, isn't it?
It's kind of a tricky thing. Although if you don't have much feedback in the circuit, meaning like say you're using 100K off a 4 ohm tap, it matters less. And there's another little master circuit that I kind of found from someone else that I really prefer, the post phase master that I prefer. That is not wildly publicized.
It's a post.
I think I told you about it.
It's a post phase inverter master.
Yeah, did I tell you about it?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
After this, you can tell me. Because I actually, like that dilemma about the negative feedback is always had me thinking. I've never kind of cracked the nut, but I've always had me thinking that if you could design a post phase inverter master that adjusted the negative feedback so that it was kind of equivalent, as you brought the volume down, then we'd be on a winner.
You need a fancy pot.
Yeah, correct. I haven't found one. That's why.
In the old days, they used to make the coolest pots and things like 4-ganged pots and things that, there was all sorts of cool stuff with switches and stuff, and all that shit's gone.
It reminds me that, so Scott Kingman, who highlighted this chat here before, he was looking for a PEC pot, dual gang, for a post phase inverter master. This is just a month or two ago. And Scott, you ended up asking for a quote through, it might have been through Mauser or one of the distributors, and you actually ended up getting the quote back. And it was like $5,000 for one pot or something like that. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's not
one custom made pot. It's worth more than the amp.
Yeah.
Dave, Tone Talk, where you spoke on an artist plugging into a 16 ohm cab with the amp set for 8, driving me crazy trying to remember. Great show.
I don't remember.
So that's going one up, right? That's safe for the amp, but
it sounds different.
It changes the operating point of the power tubes, so sound different.
I might have said it was Ed that did that because he definitely did it with load resistors later. It sounds different. It has a little more mid-range content. It's actually a little juicier sounding too. It won't hurt anything. It'll be okay. I'm reluctant to say go try it because then if you don't have really healthy tubes and you're cranking it, I'm reluctant to say, hey, just go try this.
You get a whole lot of emails asking for help. That's what normally happens.
It's like I would do it. Why not?
Yeah, for sure.
Impedance as long as there's a load on the amplifier that's not extremely mismatched, you're pretty okay. Because in reality, like a 16 ohm cab is not really 16 ohms; it's more like 13 ohms. And an 8 ohm cab is not really 8 ohms; it's a little lower than that. And same with 4. There's some slight mismatches, and if it's 13 ohms and you're running at 8 ohms out of the amp, is that really that much of a mismatch? Not really.
Not really.
The thing is no load. Infinity is the problem,
Yeah.
Or like don't run a super reverb that's 2 ohm output into a 16 ohm cabinet. Chances are you're going to arc your tubes and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's a big mismatch. Reminds me of the Runt 50 that I repaired for a guy here twice.
Oh yeah, with no cab.
No cab. He thought that, I don't know, kind of throw him under the bus, but he thought that simply by plugging in the XLR output on the back of the amp was all you needed to do.
No,
not advised. Any mods for a VTM 60 PV?
Oh man, all sorts of fun stuff with those.
Yeah, I've never been in one of those.
Oh, those are fun.
They're not too hard to get in? Change stuff?
No, actually, they're not hard to change stuff at all because the amp is made of 3 removable boards. So there's 4. There's a pot board. There's a center board where all the preamp tube sockets are. And then there's a power tube board. And they're just ribbon cables that connect to each one. You pop the ribbon cables off, take like 4 screws or 5 screws out, and you got the whole center board out.
Bit like the vintage modern, like that.
I mean, it's really easy to take boards out in that amp. I know sometimes in the VTMs, if they've been abused for a lot of years, sometimes the connectors get dirty and things like that, but you can clean those. And as long as there hasn't been any serious burn ups in there, it's fine. Actually, they're made kind of cool from that respect. I like the way the boards went together and kind of modular approach, so to speak. That was left over from the Butcher. So the first one was the Butcher, which was essentially an 800.
Yeah.
The power section's a little different than an 800, but similar.
Is this that has the little switches you can?
The VTM is the one that has the little response switches.
Yeah.
So if you actually look at the schematics of that, so how that amp came about is guitar player Mark Ferrari had a Jose modded Marshall.
Okay.
And that's what they looked at in making the VTM. So
which kind of Jose mod was it? Do you remember? Was it the all the full box and diodes and everything?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So in a certain mode on the switches, and you kind of I don't know off the top of my head what that mode is. I'd have to look at the schematic again. But in a certain mode, it is almost a verbatim Jose mod. And you have a switch for no.
Okay.
It's post, but it does have the clipping diodes.
Nice.
And stuff in it. That you can turn on and off. And then, they have some other things where you can make the second gain stage a 10K, so it's lower gain. So where they varied was the first, out of the first gain stage into the gain pot. It wasn't done like the Jose. It was done more like an 800. So that's one little avenue that is different. But it's really close. It's really close. You can totally mod those easy.
Yeah.
And they're fun.
And the boards come out easily, you said, right? So
yeah, it's easy to mod.
Easy. Yeah.
I mean, they're one-sided boards, but I mean, they're not too fragile. They're relatively okay. I mean, it's not like those first era Marshall boards where It has like little wisps of traces that if you look at it wrong, the traces just peel up. I've developed a way to do those, but you got to be very careful with those.
Look, I've probably, if you're talking about removing components from the top by heating the legs and pulling them out, I've tried it. It works, man. Yeah,
you got to do that. You got to remove them, heat them up, and pull them with a plier up.
It works 100%.
If you do it any other way, the trace gets kind of buggered up. And then you got to be careful and solder suck the trace, but don't heat it up too much because it might fall off the board.
Yeah, totally.
Inevitably, some of the circuit board you wind up having to just like solder wires on the bottom from place to place to mimic the trace, and repair it. But those aren't fun. And a lot of those Jose's were on those boards. So like, a lot.
Oh yeah, there would have been. Yeah, probably like most of them.
The one I own is on a board like that. Several Steve Vai's were on boards like that, and just
yeah.
It's just like, oh.
Even
at least when they got later, like 78, when they started going to 2203 era square switch, boards were still single sided, but they got thicker traces, and it was a little bit better of a board and easier to deal with. But those
reissue
early
boards,
archaic ones
still, even the reissue boards are single sided still, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
not sure why, but
I don't know why.
We could argue.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Does it save you that much more money? I don't think so anymore.
It doesn't make, when you look at everything else they're doing, it's all through hole plated, double sided. So,
but the 20 watt series.
Well, here's a question about the 20 watts.
The SV20, it has plated through holes, ground plane, top and bottom, like ground plane everywhere.
Yeah.
Mounting screws that are the size of a rack screw. They're huge mounting screws.
Yeah.
Very durable as far as those screws go, and lots of them. And
it's the same construction as the Origin, Dave.
I know that.
One might think they're from the same factory, even.
I guarantee they're from the same factory.
I know.
But definitely the head box is not from that factory.
The head box is different. There's no doubt about that. Yeah,
the head box is a full-on UK.
It's a nice head box.
I'm sure it's tubed and checked too, and stuff in the UK.
Yeah. Enough.
I'm pretty sure like most of the transformers now are all from their other factory, Vietnam or wherever it is. They own a factory somewhere though.
Even all the stuff that's on all the the 2203Xs and all that's the whole
all the transformers are the same that are in like JVMs and things now. You look at the same exact transformer. It's not like the they're and from what I understand now, I think they're switching over mostly to transformers from that company.
Okay.
So,
have you ever modded an SV?
I could be wrong though, so don't quote me for sure. So don't go blabbing it around. I don't work for them.
VH spec mod to the SV20, Dave. You ever done one?
Sure. I've done a lot of SV20s to improve what you would call improved Plexi specs.
Yeah.
And there's a little, it's just a few part changes. And there's a little thing I do to sweeten up the top end, just a little bit more. Across the 100K cathode or the cathode, that trick. But just minorly, just a little bit, tiny bit, the small.
Take a bit of that harshness out.
The little harshness of the transformers and everything. But they're kind of cool sounding because they have a certain because they're cathode biased. There's a certain squishy, grindy, cool thing about those.
Totally.
They totally are good. Even stock are really good sounding. I think little baby Plexi. I think they sound cool. I mean, I love those.
Yeah. We talked about the number 34 briefly before. What do you think of the mythical number 34? And what opinion arose about that time about the sound of Use Your Illusion albums?
I mean, 34. It's a cool, very bright sounding amp. I remember, seeing that SIR number 34 when I worked on it for the first time. I'm like, hey, wait, was this the amp that was used on the? And then no, it wasn't. That wasn't the amp that was used on the first record, but there's some foggy information there. But I know he wound up with it, so I assume he bought it from SIR. I guess he bought it. I don't know.
Because the other, is it the 36 is the other one that was used?
That disappeared, that no one knows where it is?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Because it's a quite different structure than the 34. 36 has got another gain stage in it, hasn't it? From memory.
We think so. That's what Tim Caswell, I think, says.
Yeah. So this has never been 100% verified. It's only speculation.
Yeah, he doesn't even know. It's just like... But I mean, to be honest, though, that his sound is, I mean, it's not the extra gain stage. He wouldn't have used that much gain to begin with anyway. I don't think the first record sounds like there's that much gain. It's bright.
Yeah.
Is it that much different than the second record? I don't know. I think his hands come through more than, anything.
100%. As always. Question on the Pink Taco 2. Came in with an EXH 1287 and V1 and boutique branded tubes elsewhere.
Yeah. So that is the EH 7025 is what was in your first slot, not the 1287.
Yeah. Nice.
That was for low microphonics, and the boutique branded BT are PS Vane Chinese tubes. We don't sell them yet. They sound great. They do have to be weeded through a lot to get some good ones. Sonically, I think they sound every bit as good as original Chinese that we used to use. But there's some growing pains that the company's going through and getting those just perfect. So we have to weed through a lot of them. As far as replacement tubes, what you might like, and I've come upon this recently, is using a JJ ECC 83 in the first slot and using the JJ 803S's in the other two slots. And that combination is pretty cool. It's a nice balance between the two of those. I liked it a lot, actually. It sounded cool. But other than that, so it's a little difficult right this second. Give it about another year and we should be good.
Yeah.
Frank, you probably shouldn't have to replace those for quite a while, to be honest. So, I mean, you can still get the 7025s too. For a while, we were using those across the whole board. That was another option too. Sometimes they can be a little less gain and people don't like it as much. But that amp's got a lot of gain, so that really shouldn't be a problem.
Slightly lower gain tube, isn't it? The 7025?
It is. And sometimes when you stack them up, you notice it even in volume, like when you put it in phase inverters and stuff. But being the fact that that's a PTV2, it's got plenty of gain. It's bright. And there's no lack of power amp gain even so. If the phase inverter tube was a little lower in gain, that would be perfectly fine. So I if you like how they sound, you can go for those.
Yeah,
tubes are a tough one right now.
Perfect. Do you understand this question, Dave? Apex guitars?
I don't know what he's talking about.
Me neither. I had no idea.
Is that a typo, or I don't
know?
I mean, we talked about our guitars earlier on, so
yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know what that's about. But, I was hoping you might. So all good. We'll move on. one tube reseller says the pink takeover is biased extremely hot, and they do something special to address this. Is this BS?
No, it is extremely hot. It runs the tubes way beyond anything, but so do the Marshall 20 watts, so do the Vox AC30s, so do many things. So
what might they be doing that's special?
They just pick some lower value tubes that bias colder.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing wrong with that.
No,
but in my experience, it's not too much of a problem with if you just use JJs.
They're pretty robust, yeah, pretty resilient.
We have probably less tube problems with those than we do anything.
How have you found the reliability of the preamp tube, the JJ's preamps?
Pretty good. I mean, like in general, occasionally one just up and croaks.
Yeah, I've just had a couple go, and I was thinking, have I just got a bad batch? Or
they've always done that.
You just turn the amp on.
We used those for years in the first slots, and I'd find that all the time. You know, people just like it just died. Looks like it's on, but it's just dead.
I was literally working on an amp last night, and then powered it down to change something, powered it back on, and then it was like,
didn't work.
And I was thinking, what did I do? It was something, and so I chased it for an hour, thinking it was something that I'd just done. Of course, freaking
yeah. No, it's always something simple. I mean, I wish there was some better, choices, but there really isn't.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Dave, have you ever thought about tube-based attenuator similar to the Fryant?
Well, I wouldn't do that because Stevie's a good friend of mine. So I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah, he's kind of cornered that. He's cracked that nut, right?
And I don't necessarily think it has to be tube, either. So because I think there's a lot of problems that come with that. So you have yet another thing that takes tubes that could fail.
You do.
And that's I mean, I use mine all the time. It's been good, but
I love mine. So if you look at the Boss. There was a TAE, the tube amp expander, right? So solid state power amp.
Yeah.
I know there's been a lot of, discussion about the load, but put that aside for a second. Is that a kind of Class D power amp?
No, it's not a Class D power amp. I know that for sure. It sounds pretty good, actually, the power amp in that.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing exactly. I don't have a schematic of it or anything.
No.
But it's definitely not Class D. Class D tends to sound really flat and not very punchy.
Yeah.
And that's why stuff like, I mean, there's some Class D amps that are out there, like the little Seymour Duncan power block. That's like, okay. But it's not really. I have some of these old Lee Jackson SP1000 power amps. I have two of them, my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, that's the best solid state power amp I've ever heard. It sounds like a tube amp. It just has guts, and it just like kicks your ass. And of course, the parts that are in it, they don't make anymore. But the funny thing is, the parts were used in hi-fi. So the chips that were used originally in it, the pair of chips that were used to make it, were like used in hi-fi amps, like a stereo receiver. Very simple circuit and simple what was done, but really gutsy and great sounding.
Have you checked out those? Have I got? Is it Rocktron? Have I got that name right?
The little tiny
single rack unit. It's pretty good sounding.
Oh no! Now forget about the Rocktron one.
Is it the Velocity 300 or something? They were called.
Well, yeah, but you have now the people that make the Decimator.
Who's that?
What's the company that makes Decimator pedals?
Not no, it's not Fortin.
No. Hang on.
Look it up. The two sticks guys.
I'm just like a brain. ISP Technologies.
Oh yeah.
So ISP Technologies has a little power amp that's like a half of a rack space or something.
Okay.
and it's like super powerful. Of course, the power supply is probably as big as the unit itself. But I've seen some. I haven't tried it in person yet, but I've seen some reviews where people were comparing that to like a power station, the power section in a power station, and in the videos at least, and the guy was playing like metal and stuff, so distortion, which I can't hear what a power amp sounds like on clean. I don't know. I don't know if other people are like that, but some people say, "Well, you got to listen to it clean." I go, I don't. It sounds the same.
It's not going to expose the
stuff that distortion
right?
does.
Yeah, just going to sound hi-fi. So what?
And I, at least in these videos, I'm like, it stood up just right to the fret. It sounded pretty wicked. I haven't tried it in person, but kind of interested
to check it out. What's this, Mason? You guys jamming? Okay.
Are we getting geeky?
Yeah, must be. I don't know.
We haven't got that geeky.
No, we haven't actually.
No, we haven't got deep dive into circuit talk.
No one's asked. No one's asked a question at that level. Yeah. Silver Tube Mini. Hey, have you checked those out? I've played the SV20 and the SC20, but I've never checked out the Jubilee Mini. Have you?
I haven't. No, I have no idea.
Interesting.
I have no idea if you could drop those in there. Probably, maybe if it takes
cathode bias.
Maybe
you probably can. Back to the other question, other point. As long as they're matched, right? No worries.
But why?
Is that the best use of them?
I mean, I don't think that maybe would be the best use of them. Probably. Those are too good. That you need those in like a proper, 4-input Plexi style amp. That would be good.
100%. It's like the I got a pair of those. I restored that 69 50 watt Plexi.
Yeah.
Which is now my amp, and you obviously helped me with that.
Yeah.
You can actually see it. It's someone right there.
Mm-hmm.
A very kind gentleman guy based in Sydney, sent me a pair of old 60 A7s. So,
nice.
That's the amp to put them in. Keep them in that. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Not a reissue 20.
Those have a sound, man. Those have a thing to them.
Yeah, it sounds freaking killer, that amp. Richard, currently building my third tube amp. Nice one, mate. I hope that's going well. Have your email and send you some pics. Which one? I think both of our emails are pretty easy to get. I think everyone knows your email, don't they, Dave? And mine's on my website. You can send me a message from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Circuit board design, huh?
Yeah. So you're actually doing PCB design? Nice one. That's a deep,
complicated.
That's a deep hole. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish you well.
And the fun part about PCB design, I don't actually do it, so I got enough stuff swimming around in my head. I can't but I do a lot of the editing of it.
Mm-hmm.
Staring at enlarged circuit boards and
layout is everything.
If we move that relay a little to the left there and then move that part up a little bit there and squeeze that in, we can get that part much closer to the pin that it's coming off of.
Yeah. and as you get with an experienced eye, you can pick trouble spots even before you fabricated the PCB.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of bleed over and all that kind of stuff, right?
And the more of them you do, the better you get at it. And the first one you did is like shit compared to the last one you're doing. And you always do one better because you always try to up yourself in the next one.
Yeah.
And next time I do this next one, I'm not going to do that one thing I did than that because it doesn't work out that well, and then there's no perfect. It's just endless.
When did you do your first, do you think? Was it like 2016, 17, somewhere around there?
PCB?
Yeah.
maybe 2015-ish.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's kind of an archaic. The first ones were kind of a little more turret-like archaic, and they've gotten more kind of advanced. Well, with more functions, they have to get more advanced.
100%.
You know, and then you just please don't give me any of this crap about hand wired is better than PCB. PCB is absolutely better than hand wired.
You don't need to convince me on this.
100% better than hand wired.
Mm.
Hand wired, one, you have people that do the hand wiring, and I guarantee that they do not always do the best job. Someone is always going to make a mistake. There's always going to be one thing. They were a little distracted when they soldered the one wire. They're human. They're going to make a mistake. This is normal. This is, and then the lead dress is always slightly different. I don't care how much you try to put that wire in the exact same spot. It's not in the same spot from amp to amp. It's relatively close, but it's just not. And the parts are much further away from the source. That your parts are on the board and your tube socket's over here, so you got 6 inches of wire, or less, but X amount of inches of wire between the part and the board, and then that just acts as an antenna, and then you can get radio, and you can just all this stuff.
It goes on and on and on.
If a PCB is done correctly with thick boards plated through plated through holes, 2-ounce or 3-ounce copper, it is much better.
And you can't beat it. You can't beat it.
It's bulletproof. It's good, and you can still repair it.
Oh, totally.
It's still repairable. If you make it easy to build, you can pull a whole board out and just repair the board on your bench, which is a lot easier than doing a repair in the amp.
I mean, when did Marshall? We were talking about the ST1 boards before, right? When did Marshall start using single-sided PCB in their amps? Right, 1974. There you go. Yeah. It's not like this is a new thing.
Yeah. And a lot of my amps are hand wired because it is still 90% of the amp is hand wired. Every socket, every jack, every pot, every thing else. It's just the main board has parts on it. But I'm getting to the point where even that, when you start doing production, and has nothing to do with saving costs, because you're not saving. Let's put it this way. Let's say you take a B100 Deluxe now, and now I want to make this all PCB. Okay. Hypothetically. Oh, you're going to save a lot of money by doing that, right? No. It has all the exact same parts the amp always had in it. All the parts are exactly the same. All the Synergy mustard caps, all the 1-watt resistors, everything. It's all exactly the same. What you're going to shave off is labor time to assemble it.
Yep.
Okay. So now let's say this amp took, I don't know. I'm just throwing numbers out there. Let's say it took 8 hours to make the amp, okay?
Yep.
Hand wired amp took 8 hours. Starting with a loaded board. Probably less, but let's say it took 8 hours.
Yep.
And let's say with a loaded board, your new amp takes you 2 hours. So then you have 6 hours difference. Okay. That's, okay, yeah, sure. So what does that really translate into? That translate into I don't know, $100?
Yeah.
So it's $100 less. Okay, so your amp, instead of a $4,000 amp, is now let's say a $3,800 amp.
Yeah.
It's not. There's no massive savings. It's just more efficient and quicker, and you'll be able to actually produce more and supply and demand.
And anyone who says PCB is not hand wired hasn't built an amp, because when you do it yourself, you realize how much hand wiring goes into it.
Well, you got to load the whole PCB if you're doing it yourself,
Correct.
which
Everything.
is mind-numbing.
Yeah, I mean, that in itself, right? Everything's still done by hand. Question here about quality control, I think. What is the QC process? So, Dave, you still go down to Boutique Factory every week?
Every week, I test every single amp that leaves the place.
My God,
I know.
is that a full day? Does that take you a full day down there?
Oh, it's sometimes 2 days.
No way.
QC. Well, I mean, it comes off the line. It gets tubed. It gets burned in for a day on a burn-in rack with signal applied into a load at a pretty decent volume. Then if it passes all that stuff and then comes to me, and then I do a complete scope check, look at all the waveforms, make sure all the switches are functioning as they should. Then I listen to the amp to make sure there's no tube noises, tube rattles, microphonics, anything like that. I sit there and bang on the chassis and bang the amp on the table and bang on the tubes with a Sharpie, banging on the tubes while it's running, making sure that it's not going to break on you, But then stuff can still happen. So, the biggest problem that I see a lot is defective parts from manufacturers. You get a defective. We're seeing kind of a lot of defective pots these days. Yeah. And that's that's even driving me closer to going all PCB pots and everything, because 100%. The full-size pots that were once really good are now
not so good.
And a really great pot is now $40 a pot. Like a PVC pot or something,
Yeah,
it's like some crazy figure.
They're ridiculous.
You can't do that, and CTS has a whole nother host of problems with pots, and so it's kind of a problem. So I don't know what our defective return rate is, to be honest. I don't really have that figure. I can tell you this: we'll take care of you. We go well out of our way to make sure everyone's happy and everyone's taken care of.
I can give you a little bit of perspective from Australia, because if there's any issue with the Friedman amp here, it gets sent here. Dave sends them to me, and I've been doing that, Dave, I don't know, for a year maybe.
Yeah.
And I reckon I've had 3 amps come.
Yeah. And a lot of them are really simple things,
Yeah. And one of them was the guy that was running the Run 50 without a load. So that's not a defect. Yeah. That's a user error, right? So very, very low. Had a few others that are coming for mods, but that's nothing to do with defect.
No. I mean, on the amount of amps we're actually put out there, I think our defect rate's pretty low. I mean, sometimes you'll see on forums like, it's like, oh, every amp's breaking. And I'm like, okay, so in the last 6 months, we've had 5 amps on the forum that have gone up, that someone said they have a problem with, and maybe a couple of those were just modems in the room causing noise into the amp or things like that. Or user error or things like that, or a tube problem. I mean, things like that mostly. But, if you think that's a lot how many amps we actually ship?
Oh man.
I test like close to 100 amps a week.
Mind blowing.
So I don't know, we're if that's the case, 5, 6, 7,000 amps a year or something. I don't know, something like that.
That's a crazy number.
So I mean, I think we do pretty well. I think we're fine.
I know you're not your favorite thing is people posting their issue into your user group and then having 100 people put the wrong answer there.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. When it's something
Not your
simple like,
favorite thing.
I've had people send me videos where this was an awesome one. So my amp's making noise. Okay, so when someone says this in your email, you're like, okay, so when you say it's making noise, what sort of noise? Um, uh, First thing I'd like you to do is unplug the input cable, unplug any loops you have in the effects loop, and just have the amp on straight into the cabinet.
Nothing else.
Is it making noise now? Well, no, it's not making any noise. Okay, now plug your guitar in. Oh, it makes a lot of noise now.
One guitar, one cable.
Roll your volume knob off in the guitar. Oh, yeah, the noise gone. Okay, well, it's the room that you're in, and you're picking up EMF through your guitar pickups. Some rooms, some areas, some houses, some things are extremely noisy. Like I've had shops before where it's like, it's just, it was the, transformers on the pole that are outside, that out of control. We went as far as this one place, we wound up turning the power off to the entire shop and had a battery powered amp, little Marshall battery powered amp with a guitar, and it's still buzzed. There's no power through the entire building at all and nothing connected to the wall. It's still buzzed.
You got to ground shield the whole building. Right?
Yeah, Faraday cage in your room, cage. And that's not so simple to do. So, that stuff drives me insane. So yeah, on the forum, you please just email me first.
Yeah,
because generally what happens is you get 50 wrong answers, and there's one right answer, and it'll probably come from me. So please email me.
It's just wild guesses, right?
Yeah.
Tubes, filter caps.
Wild guesses. Yeah, I had wild it once. It did this. No.
40 grit. Hey, thanks, Dave. The DeMartini Marshall head that just sold on eBay.
No.
Did you see it?
No.
So the question is waiting for a Friedman DeMartini.
I don't know. It's a very it's a unique amp. I don't know
what would it be? Is it because we were talking before about how he would run the master, like it's a 2203 style amp?
Yeah, it's really, that's the thing. It's kind of like a 2203 style with slightly with a Plexi 2203 style, which is the oddball,
Yeah,
runs it on 10, and he uses it with the power station actually now. What do you do? Sell a power station with it? I haven't quite figured that one out yet. I don't know. We'll see if that's going to happen.
Interesting.
So what? It might be very limited. I might just do it very limited. I don't have enough of me to get everything I want to have done. I need a few more of me.
Not enough hours in the day.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Dave,
Corin is in there. Hey, Michael. Shit, that was way back. That was an hour ago. Hi, Michael.
I'm way behind. We're way behind, but we're making our way through these questions. Any future solid state mini heads in development, Dave?
No, not right now.
Yeah.
Nope. I don't know. Don't know if we'll do that or not.
Pete's Bright Cap. I actually watched Pete's live stream. Well, it wasn't a live stream, live premiere of his rig rundown day before.
Yeah.
He's got the switch, and I actually asked him, and he replied, thankfully. I said, what bright caps have you got in there, and how have you got it set? So he's got 100 picofarad.
And 4700.
And 4700. And for the rock show setup, he's running it with the 4700.
Mm-hmm. The gain back at about 7 or 8, 7, 8, somewhere in there.
Yeah, just awesome.
Yeah.
Dave, what is the effect of filter cap values on tone? Here's a good one.
Oh boy. So it depends on where. Of course, it depends. See, there's my line.
We got it.
It
Yay.
does depend on where you're talking about messing with your filter cap.
Yeah, preamp.
Some
Screens,
filter caps have
screen.
more effect than others. You know, like the screen is a huge one for feel, kind of
Massive.
for feel. I like both kinds of filtering. It depends on the sort of amp you know, what sound you're going for. I kind of sometimes like the lower filtering better. Has a squish factor that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sort of interesting though when you have done this before. Some people ask me to mod a Sur SL68, but not
To what?
still to be that Marshall, but they wanted like synergy caps in it, and can you make it better? Essentially, I put
It's got
synergy
the
caps in it,
M150s
and
on it.
I put synergy caps in it, and I played with the filtering. So I put the Ed spec filtering, you know, of the old 12 series.
Do you
filtering.
remember what that is? Top of your head?
Yeah, it's just the first stage is 200s in series. The second stage is 233s or 32s in series. So
Yeah.
it's 15.
Very, very low.
And then the phase inverter cap is 100 or 250s in parallel.
Yep.
And then the preamp was a dual 33. So you know, it's interesting. I played with it in this amp between the lower filtering and the stiffer filtering. And it was interesting because in reality, the lower filtering tightens it up.
Yeah.
It's squishier, but there's less low end. It's kind of interesting because it's like the low end is less sort of I'll describe it sort of less solidified, and with the bigger filtering, it seems like it's stiffer, it feels stiffer, but there's more low end.
I know what you mean.
Smaller.
You got that nice bloomy kind of the bottom end that's kind of nice and round when it's like that.
Yeah, but then when the smaller one, it kind of shaves that low end off. And it was really apparent when I did this amp.
So what's the stock screen filtering in the 68? Is it 50 microfarad? Two 100s?
The stock in an old 12 series amp was 230s through 33s or 32s in series originally.
But in the SL68, do you remember?
Oh no, it's higher.
Two 100s, so 50. I wonder. I should check it out.
I think it's two 100s. I think it's at 50.
It's an SL68, right?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you should check it out. Right?
Yeah, I'll pull it out on the bench.
All of a sudden, you're digging in and modifying it.
I'm thinking, okay, I know what I'm doing this afternoon.
The synergy cap sounded good in it.
Oh yeah,
the Mallory sound good, but the synergy one sounded a little bit better.
Better, yeah.
Slightly better. The filtering was cooler with the other way. It's funny that era amp came with two different. So you would either see 12 series amps with a 60 microfarad in the phase inverter cap in the corner, with all the other filtering that I said, or you'd see sometimes them with dual 50 paralleled to 100 in the corner. So you saw them both ways. So
yeah,
but how Ed's amp sat in the end was that what I described.
Yeah, killer.
When I put new filter caps in it.
So Brian wants you to make a 34, or your take on the 34. Yeah, another piece of product development there for you, Dave.
Another thing I don't have time to do.
Yeah, another thing to put on the list, man.
Yeah,
come on. Here we go. This is a fairly techie question. Film caps over electrolytics
in the power supply.
Power supply. I thought he was going to say cathode bypass caps.
Well, theoretically, the film caps will last a lot longer. You know what? I've never actually listened to it. I know there's some nice big film caps available. They're a little cost prohibitive, but man, they take up a little bit of space. They look kind of cool.
I was going to say, the size, yeah.
But I've never actually listened to what they sound like, though. I don't know if I'd like it or not. So I'm not sure.
Do you know of any production amp that's using film caps?
No, but I saw I saw some people on some of the clone places. I don't remember where now, where they built some Marshalls that had them in, like those in it and stuff. Like, is it going to be that much better or that much different, or I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Will it last forever? Probably. But then again, a really good electrolytic cap can last quite a long time. Totally. I mean, really, even in some of these old Marshalls that are from the 60s, I've seen caps and measured caps that the ESR and the filtering on them is just perfect.
Yep.
There's no issues whatsoever still.
Yep.
I know Stevie Fryette's a big proponent of that.
This is the question, right?
Do you recap
to recap or not to recap?
Change them.
Yeah.
If you don't have to, if it doesn't need it. I mean, if it's bulging and oozing goop out of it, yeah, you should change it.
Yeah, but if the amp sounds killer and it's original, I'd leave it alone, I reckon.
Yeah, lately I've been kind of going back and I just serviced a bunch of vintage amps and I kind of went back and I measured every single cap in it. I have a good LCR meter and stuff, and
yep.
I measured every cap in it, and most of them were all fine, all within tolerance of what it would be. ESR is low, functioning fine.
It's normally a result of an amp that's continually been used as well, right? It's the ones that have been stuck away in the garage and not turned on for 20 years. The problem.
Yeah. On the other hand, I have had a cap explode on my bench from age. That was a JTM 45, and it spit the goop. And it was this cap on the side inside, and it spit all the goop across the entire board, everywhere. And it was an immaculately cool JTM 45, and I scrubbed that amp for days trying to get that stuff out and clean it up. And it was cleaner. It was okay. It was passable, but it's never going to look like it once did ever again.
No.
Yeah.
It's just the downside of not recapping.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, one bad experience like that, right? And then
I was sitting there while I was on too, and it fucking just exploded. Just I wasn't looking at it. I was faced away from it, but
it's lucky you didn't have your head over the amp or something, if it's like
it shot it all over my curtains that I have in here and everything. It was just a big mess. Jesus.
That's a pain in the ass.
And I was just like, oh. And I borrowed this amp from a friend of mine to compare to something, and it did that.
You said,
and then I had to fix it for free.
About that JTM 45 that you lent me.
Yeah. About that amp, I had to replace the filter caps in it because it blew up.
Mm-hmm. Question here.
It was okay.
Question here about transparent OD pedal. Transparent meaning, what does that mean? Doesn't flavor it too much, yes?
Yeah, sure. The Golden Pearl pedal that I have. Super transparent OD pedal, designed to go into an already distorted amp and kind of give you more of the same sound. It's not designed to shrink the low end or tighten it up. It's not designed to give you more. It's designed to give you more gain, kind of the same sound of the amp. So if you're looking for it to tighten it up, that's not what it's going to do.
Yep.
Buy a tube screamer.
Yep. Jamino Lead 35 and a Marshall SV20 for Van Halen. Which amp?
Well, Greg Germino makes really nice amps. I've never had any experience with the 35 Lead 35. I have no idea what it is even.
No, I'm intrigued. If it's a 35,
I'm sure it's really good components, and really good quality, probably superior to the Marshall. But I do know that the Marshall, with some slight tweaks, can be super cool for the VH kind of thing.
Yeah. Here's Daniel actually sent through a super chat. Thanks. You didn't need to do that because I put your question up, but we do appreciate it all the same. Daniel, we do. Yeah, 35. I wonder what the power section is in that, Dave. It's an odd number to have.
I don't know what's going on in there at all, so I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
I mean, I imagine the Germino's more money.
Yeah, I've no doubt.
Although the Marshall's quite a bit of money. At least here it is.
Well, if it's expensive there, it's expensive here. I can tell you.
Yeah, I would imagine. I imagine there too. In England, it's a pretty good deal.
I'm not even sure what they go for. I know that the Origin
it's double here from what it is in England.
After they've shipped them up from Vietnam, then you can sell them in the English market, right? Cheap. But you don't want to send it all the way to England and then all the way to Australia. Expensive. A 20-watt Origin, so the Origin 20, retails for $799 Aussie here.
Okay, yeah.
So they're getting more expensive. They used to be cheaper. So I think the Studio 20s are twice that, I think. 1,500 or something like that. On top of my head here. But
ours is 1,800.
Oh, God.
Or maybe I could be wrong. SV20. Let's see.
I'll do the same. Let's just find out.
Price comparison.
Yeah.
Sweetwater.
H.
1749.
No way. Really?
Yeah.
So they're here.
28. So you might as well just buy one of my amps. It's cheaper. So
the SV20 head is 1,500 Aussie dollars here, which is about 1,000 US, maybe 1,100 US.
So it's a good deal there.
Yeah.
The problem here is there's a distributor. And so they send it over, then the distributor marks it up, and then there's another mark in a product, again. Yeah, it's expensive here.
Yeah, that's unreal. I just assumed that everything was, given the size of the market and all the rest of it, it would just be cheaper.
Hell, I could send you the money to buy it there, and you can send it to, well, except it's $240. You can send it to me, and even paying the shipping, it might be cheaper.
Sounds like
it.
Oh,
there's customs. Oh, maybe not.
I'm not sure those PTs have got universal.
I don't think so. No. In fact, Marshall generally does not do that at all anymore.
Yeah.
Because I know I have a JVM sitting here waiting for a US power transformer that I've been waiting on for, I don't know, 4 months.
Really?
Yeah.
God, that sounds shocking.
Yeah.
Favorite amp was a Blackface Bassman. Dave, not really. I'd love to have an old Blackface Bassman sitting in my collection, but
I have one.
Yeah, you got one?
Yeah, I have one. Yeah, not here, but I have one.
Ah, what do you think of it?
I think Blackface Bassman's cool. It's a cool amp. Crank it up and use it in a power station or something. It sounds cool.
Look at this one.
I mean, if you get it cheap.
Jason's the kind of guy that would mod a clock radio. Well, I can tell you I have never done that, but hey, why not?
Here's something never to offer to modify.
Yeah.
And that is the Sovtek amps.
Ah, really? Yeah, I thought
the architecture's right. The architecture's right.
Uh-huh.
But just if you do happen to get one of those to modify, just know that just go ahead and replace all the pots. Just replace all the pots.
All of them.
Because if you look at the pots around, they'll break.
Are they PCB mount or chassis mount?
They're
Probably PCB. I don't know. I can't actually know.
it might be. I'm trying to remember now. Some form of PCB. They were mounted really strangely. You got to do. You can fix it, all the issues, but you got to get rid of the pots.
Yeah.
Because if they won't break right away, right when you try it again in a few minutes after you modify it, you'll find that that pot's broken now. So
you mean
if
like
you just do it right away to begin with, just change them all right away, you're good.
You mean like they actually physically break? They're brittle.
They physically,
electrically
they're the worst pots I've ever seen in my life.
Oh man,
they have shafts the size of like a pen tip. They're just awful little things.
Yeah, that's no good.
In reality, though, I did mod one from Josh from JHS Pedals, and I did put a Dirty Shirley mod on one, and it did actually come out good in the end. Fortunately, that amp he had already changed all the pots, and the jacks too. You got to change the jacks and the pots, so make sure you get it cheap.
Are they kind of set up like an 800?
Like a 4-input Tweed Bassman. So yeah. Some of them were set up like an 800, but most of them were like the Bassman.
Right.
So they're easy. The cathode follower is there. It's all it's not that hard, but also you don't want to be messing around with the circuit board too much either, because that'll fall apart also.
Sounds like an old ST1.
So it's a fun adventure. They kind of come out cool though.
The good old DSL 100s, mate. Have you ever had a crack at modding one of those? I know this is going to drive you insane.
I'd rather not. There's a couple things that I have done in the past to them that make them sound a little bit better. You can take the depth circuit that they use out, you can cut it out, and install a regular standard depth pot or thumb pot.
Right.
That makes it sound better right away. And then there's some stuff you can do to shave the top end a little bit that sweetens up the top a little bit in the circuit, and that's better. But they're kind of horrible to work on.
They are.
You don't want to do a bunch of reworking because you don't want to be taking the board out and stuff. And but those two little things you can do kind of all from the top, and it improves it some.
The problem with that amp, particularly the gain side, too many gain stages.
Yeah,
it's just too many
clipping diodes, and
it's just unnecessary. Yeah, I don't know. They just didn't need to do it. That's my feeling. Hey, good evening. Hey, Tyler. Any details you know about the recording sessions for the new Alice in Chains albums?
I don't know. I know Jerry's. He just did some shows. He's on tour again. So
yeah, where are they at the moment?
So I don't know when they did AIC record or not. I have no idea. But if Nick Raskulinix, I can never say his last name. Raskulinix, anyway.
Don't ask me to do that.
Nick.
I'm not even going to try.
Did it. He's awesome. So he owns a Friedman amp, I do believe. He owns one. He's a Friedman fan. I just saw Jerry like a week or two ago.
Oh, yeah?
A week ago. He was rehearsing across the street, came by.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, and
still using the same rig? Like
same rig.
Amp rack, pedalboard, everything's the same? Nice.
No, nothing has changed.
He doesn't want to change any of it?
He likes it all.
Yeah.
He likes the sounds he's gotten. He likes the amps. He loves everything about it. It's a pretty wicked sound live. He gets a great tone. So, I mean, kind of crushing. I remember the time. So I'm sure you might have seen. I did a rig run through with him with Sweetwater.
I've seen it. I've seen it. Yep.
So that was in Indiana, but it was in what's the city it was in? It's a different city in Indiana. He was going to be there playing a show. and I happened to be in Detroit. It's kind of a funny story.
It's your home, right?
We were trying to get all worked out with management and everything.
Yeah.
And I worked on this really hard, and then I finally get this approval to do this. And I'm going to be in Detroit anyway, so I'm going to drive down to South Bend, Indiana. I'm going to drive down, and it's like two hours away, no big deal. And drive down, and I'll be able to be in the video too. It's cool, and finally get the okay. Management's fine, the management, sometimes there's a lot of rigmarole to get through.
I bet.
Finally got the okay. Yeah, okay, let's do it. After like dragging on for like a week or a week and a half of, it's like, hurry up and email the guys at Sweetwater, and the guys at Sweetwater are like, oh, we already booked the guys to go somewhere else. I'm like, I've been working on this for like ever to try to make this happen, and you're just going somewhere else. I fucking called my guy at Sweetwater. I'm like, going, I've really been working on this a long time. What the heck? And of course, then it all magically happened. But well, anyway, I took Sammy Bowler with me over there, because I go, hey, you want to go with me to go see Alice in Chains? Go over there, get a hotel for a night. Yeah, sure, absolutely.
100%.
So we're going over there, just the two of us, and we walk into they're playing a theater there in South Bend. We walk into the theater, and we're going up towards his guitar rig. They're sound checking on stage, and his cabinets are right off stage. So he doesn't have cabinets behind him with Alice. They're all off stage, but they're just blowing to the backstage area. Just two cabinets sitting there right by the tech world, blowing the other way. And we're just walking up. Sammy and I are walking up on the cabinets as he's playing some classic Alice, riff. And we're just sitting there. We stand in front of the cabinets, and we're both sitting there, and our jaws are kind of on the ground going, oh man, does that sound good?
Unreal.
It's in his touch. It's in Jerry's touch. It's like he'll make it just sound like crushing, like in his touch. And it's like interesting. And Sammy's just like, oh my God, that's like the best guitar sound I've ever heard.
Amazing. And he uses he's got one amp in JBE mode and one not. Is that how he does
one amp in JBE mode and one amp in not. And the amp in JBE mode also has a delay in the loop of that amp.
Okay.
So that amp has a little bit of delay going, like light echo. And the other amp is just like a BE channel that is, and his gains are back at about 6 on both the amps, 6-ish, somewhere there. So it's not like tons of gain. So one is the cleaner amp, and one is a more saturated amp. And this more saturated amp has the delay effects. The other effects and things that come on are all in front of both.
Is the delayed amp 100% wet, so it's slightly delayed, or it's just got it
just has a delay in the loop that is just like ambient echo, like 450 milliseconds, 3 repeats, kind of mixed low. So it just gives some depth to it all.
No sweat.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, John. Dave, ideal B100 deluxe settings for a Super Lead Plexi.
Well, Super Lead Plexi on 10, if that's the case, like a Van Halen style Super Lead on 10, if that's what you're asking me, not like Jimi Hendrix Plexi, then it's the BE channel. All switches off in the back. Voice switch center on the front. Wait, it's a B100. Okay, deluxe. Probably the response to the right, the frequency to the right, probably with the thump backed off to maybe 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
Probably presence at around 2-ish. Meaning 2 o'clock, or shall we say 7?
Yeah.
Mid, the other 3 EQ knobs maybe at 6-ish. Maybe mid a little higher. 7, 8 on the dial. Gain on 10 and master to taste should get you right in the ballpark.
Yeah, nice.
To be honest. It's really not, it's nothing more than the BE channel. It's no more gain than that.
No.
Not at all.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
The BE channel came about by my 50-watt Marshall run with a Variac, and A being the channel to that. So
do you only have you got your 50-watt biased for the Variac? So you only ever run it with a Variac just all the time? You never run it at 120?
No.
Yeah. Nice move.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if it was always biased exactly that way, but it's a good sounding.
Yeah. So speaking of Stevie Fry before, right? He did a couple of clips with that amp. Yeah, that was really interesting. It was cool.
To be honest, he measured those caps as kind of being fine. I'm thinking it's getting a little tired. It might need some fresh tubes, to be honest. Or maybe some fresh filter caps, or maybe at least 2 of them.
The filter cap's still original?
Yes.
Or they were replaced at some point. I can't remember.
Original Hunts.
Wow.
I have to look at that again. Maybe they were replaced at some point.
It's hard to remember all this stuff, isn't it?
Well, when you don't look in the inside of the amp for years, yeah.
I know you can remember the details of the schematics of all of your amps, but you can't remember what filter caps you're.
I can remember even the detail of what's in that amp mostly, but not necessarily the filter cap.
Yeah, no, I get it. Speaking of EVH brown sound, here's the question: the real magic wasn't the Variac, but the compression inside the Echoplex.
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Actually, to be honest, I think a lot of times there were records done without the Echoplex in front of the amp.
Yeah, I know
the magic is not in the Echoplex. The magic actually is in the Variac, and how the amp was maybe not biased. Meaning he tended to crank it, and then if the Variac was down low enough, it probably was okay. But chances are the tubes were wildly mismatched too. So go figure what the bias was. Who knows?
Yeah.
Because in the early days, it was told to me verbatim that he would just, if one tube red plated, he would just grab one tube and shove it in. There was no regard for match sets.
No.
So have you ever done that experiment, like radically mismatching tube sets in an amp?
Other than getting hum at idle, I haven't kind of.
Well, it doesn't always get hum at idle. It depends on how far it is apart, but it's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, right. You look a little bit asymmetric, kind of.
It's kind of cool. But yeah, so this is a problem because red plating and things like that. There were a lot of amps over the years that he blew up transformers in because of the way he would run things. And I was told straight from Rudy Laren's mouth, his old tech, that eventually Jose gave him match sets of tubes.
Mm-hmm.
People didn't match tubes in the old days. This
probably
wasn't
didn't have matches. Didn't have testers, probably.
And finally, Jose made up match sets of tubes to put in the amplifiers, and then they didn't blow up any transformers anymore.
Makes sense.
So
makes sense. Hey Jeff, thanks for that.
And when you heard about things like him melting tubes and things, well, when you think about this for a second, it's like he was a man that would, any dial or anything that he could turn, he'd turn it up.
10.
It just, he wanted to go past 10, like, so anything. I mean, anything. Oh, you
More
got
is
a little
more.
trim pot inside this buffer? I can turn that up, right?
Less is not more. More is more.
Yeah, exactly. So when you think about that, so there might have been times that he learned, that he played. What does it sound like when you turn the variac all the way up?
Oh God.
So who knows what the set of tubes was then? And then you'd watch the tubes literally melt or blow the amp,
Well, that was he famously said that, right, at the very early interview. That's what he did, which caused no end of damage to Marshalls, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I mean, at times I'm sure he did that, especially in the studio and things. So, yeah, that was an interesting character, but it was yeah. So who knows? It was in his hands though.
It was correct. I was going to say the real magic was obviously
because you hear stuff of him playing acoustically on a guitar, just like an electric, and he's just playing clean with no amp, and you hear him do all the harmonics,
it's insane,
kick squeals and everything else, and there's no gain whatsoever.
Super clean.
Hammer-ons clean, everything's clean. So he had a very strong hand. Like I remember shaking his hand for the very first time, and it was like a gorilla grip. You know what I mean? Like you just like, ow. When people grab your hand, like a really strong guy will grab your hand, you're just like, Jesus.
Yep. Interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Warwick. Hey, Warwick. So we talked about the PS Veins.
They're great.
Yeah. All good. So I know, Warwick, I sent you a match quad. I don't know I think you've tried them, haven't you? Yeah. I think you told me that you like them. Here we go, Dave. There's a little opportunity to be controversial. $7,000 for an amp, I think, is probably on the high side.
Well,
no comment.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know what his deal might be with Frederick from Meshuggah, or Frederick. How do you say his last name? Something Thorndal or something. I don't know what his deal might be financially with him. So I don't really know. I mean, does that seem a bit steep? Maybe. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is hard to judge. I mean, is a Dumble amplifier worth $150,000? No.
Yeah.
Have people paid that much? Yes. Is a train rack amp worth $60,000-$70,000? Those are pretty great.
Yeah.
But is it really worth that much?
Probably not.
Maybe not.
Probably not. Here's an answer to the question that we asked ages ago, which shows us how far back we are in the chat here. There was a Class AB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said it definitely wasn't a
Yeah. Studio Classic 20 versus 2203X versus vintage 2203, 2204s.
Vintage 800 be inconsistent. Vintage 800s inconsistent. Well, there were some slightly different specs over time that were used. Mainly, is it an up and, like an old 800? Is it an up and down input 800, which in turn has 6 filter caps in it, like an old Super Lead does? Or is it the side by side, which has was it 4 or 3 filter caps or something in it?
Yeah.
Which they're the same circuit, although the side-by-side ones, the voltages are way different. So across the board, so they sound different.
Totally.
And
Much
even
higher in the preamp, right?
in the early 800s, they sometimes hot shielded the
Yep.
input lead to cure some oscillation that they had going.
Yep.
And the hot shielding changes the sound a lot. It really rolls a bunch of top end off
A lot.
and actually sounds slightly like a cocked wah on. And in some amps, I've found that it sounds kind of cool.
You see that a lot in those 34 and 36 mods, yeah, the SIR stuff.
Yeah,
that have the shield.
yeah, and there's a sound to that, and it does do something. It's also what kind of shielded wire are you using for that hot mod, for that hot shield, right?
Mhm.
So if you're the lower the capacitance the wire, the better that actually sounds. The higher the capacitance that wire is to begin with,
Yep.
then it makes it even worse with the hot shield and it's rolling. You know, it's the capacitance is what's causing the issue. You know, so some of them had that and some of them didn't. So that radically makes them sound different. But and then you know different caps were used over time. Sometimes some of them had the red little caps on the board. Other ones had the green ones. The green ones were kind of awful sounding. But can you make it all the same? Yeah, you can. You know, just got to know what you want to hear.
This is it.
So are they inconsistent? Sort of, yeah. The 203X little 20 watt, pretty cool. You know,
Cool amp. I've got a couple in here.
It sounds like 800 kind of circuit with a slightly different power section, maybe slightly harsher.
Yeah.
Which you can fix.
Yeah.
And the SC20 is like a really good sounding Plexi. They're made really well. So the little ones are pretty cool.
They are cool. I think the main reason people say vintage 800s are inconsistent is because most of them have been modded.
Well, they've been modded, or you know, God knows what
they are.
they're in it. So at one point in time they use EL34s, another point in time they use 6550s. Like I said, the hot shield alone will make 2 identical amps sound radically different. And
totally.
So yeah, you know, sure, they're different.
Yeah.
Yet the same.
Here's a question I'd like to know the answer to as well, because I've got 2 SDE 3000 sitting in my rack over there, which I've got dialed in as kind of what I understand. Obviously, Ed had them set up. How did you set them up, Dave, when you had the setup at NAMM?
So we took a line out from an amp. We had an amp switcher, but then we took a line out off whatever amp's playing through the amp switcher. So a little line out circuit that I use all the time, which I can give you, Jason.
Cool.
And there's a particular one that Stevie Fryatt showed me years ago that I like to use.
Nice.
And fed into both inputs of the SDEs, the mixed output, because there was dry in the outside cabs. The mixed output of each SDE went to a matrix power amp that we had, and that powered 2 more 412s. And if you turn the delays off, basically you had 3 equal volume 4x12s dry. If the delays were on, the delays were mixed in at whatever kind of level you wanted them at.
And if you got them,
the 2, I think we used 250 and 500, I think, and about 3 repeats on the 500, and then we just kind of adjusted the feedback on the shorter delay time so it would ping pong. So a lot of times you can't set the feedback exactly the same. The shorter one's got to be longer.
Totally.
Feedback number, so it does the ping pong. Otherwise, it just trails one way.
Do you use the mod? You know, you can turn those mod fonts. Yeah,
mod off.
Yeah, gets a bit.
And that's exactly how everyone else used them too, like Ed and everyone else. So
They get a bit kind of
mod.
wobbly, don't they?
Yeah, no mod.
Yeah.
Sound great.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
Question here about Twin Sister. Favorite speaker combo for a 4x12.
For Twin Sister, I'm just gonna go with straight greenbacks. I mean, you could try a lot of other things. I mean, maybe
Can't go wrong.
maybe some cream, maybe some Alnico creams might be kind of cool, or the Alnico golds might be kind of cool with that amp. It might be really what's the sound you're looking for out of that amp, how classic, how voxy, how not, you want it to sound. I would think definitely though, like, will sound great with some greenbacks.
You can't go wrong, I reckon.
Nah.
4x12 with greenbacks.
Yeah, that's good.
It's the kind of gold standard.
Especially after it's beat up for a while.
Yeah. Another VH question here, Dave. Relatively budget 68 spec super leads, other than building your own.
Maybe you could do the little 20 watt. Maybe you could do the little 20 watt. I mean, budget. Not really budget ones available. I am coming out with one.
Oh yeah, how's that going, by the way?
I have circuit boards and chassis sitting here.
Cool.
And transformers, even prototype transformers, which I waited forever for. So how's that going? Well, I got to get around to building it. I have also the chassis and the protos for the Vox style amp. I'll do too.
And so, can you say anything about what wattage the Plexi will be?
It's a 50.
It's a 50.
Yeah, 50. 50,
cool.
But it does have a cool master on it that you can use. Sort of like how the SL68 has the post-phase master kind of thing on it.
Yep.
And it will have a built-in variac. So
you're doing that with switchable primaries on the PT?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Nice. That's because then you get the I know this was talked about with your last guest.
You just scour the guests, don't you?
Well, I listen. While I'm tinkering, I have it in the background. You pick up all these little nuggets of information.
Yeah,
so what you guys talked about,
you might know more of what we talked about than I do.
Oh man, I remember it all. It goes right up here.
It was like, hey, Jason, what did we say in that episode back 50 episodes ago? Here, I wrote it down.
You talked about how dropping the heater voltage was actually the secret.
It is
not just the B plus line.
I learned that a long time ago when I did an amp with Roy Blankenship and the Variplex amp that I did. Although we did a solution to drop volume, where the heaters remain constant, but that wasn't the key to the tone.
Hey, here's a question. See, I get to ask my own questions now. So it's my own tone talk episode with Dave Friedman.
There you go. Perfect.
Nothing better. So if you're running DC heaters and you drop the voltage on DC, is it the same? Do you think you get the same result as if you're just dropping AC? For that brown sound?
I don't know.
Yeah, interesting though.
Although I'm gonna find out. You surely can't have regulated DC heaters.
Well, this is it.
You can't have regulated DC. So
because dropping the DC lines, it's a piece of cake.
So
right?
if you're saying dropping the voltage from 12 volts to 11 volts, or do you have to drop it more? Is it all relative?
9 maybe, yeah. Like it'd have to be relative, wouldn't it?
It sort of have to be relative, I think. Yeah. So
9 or 10, I'd say.
I don't know. I'm going to tell you soon.
Good.
I'll tell you how that's going to go. Or I might switch back to AC.
Yeah.
Well, I do have the option on the transformer I have, so I can have either way. I don't really want to use AC though, because it's just problematic. It's noisy.
It eliminates one problem, doesn't it? You always it's good to get it out of the way.
It's problematic. If I did do it, I think I would do the heaters twisted and way above the board, and then dropping straight down in. Like way high.
It's not common. It's very common to see DC heaters running on tracks on PCBs, but
you can do AC and PCB, but you have to do it, and it's helpful. Ground planes are very helpful with that a little bit. Mm-hmm. But you do have to keep that AC way the hell away from everything else.
Oh man!
So like if your tubes are oriented, one way or the other, it's like from the back side of the board, the AC's got to go around the outer edge and then drop into each tube. It can work. It can work, and it might. I might change that. So we'll see.
You're gonna find out.
I'm gonna find out. Basically, I'm gonna compare it to my old amp, and like if I can get it close sounding, then I'm fine.
Man, I'd love to hear the result. If you can do the testing of the DC heaters, I'd love to know how that goes. Right, running them at 9 volts.
Yeah,
or something.
I'm really curious about that myself.
Question here about BE100 Deluxe Plexi settings. Oh, it sounds awesome, but gain on 8. Okay. This was probably, John, this is in reference to the question about how to dial in your BE as a super lead. Should I crank the master to 8 and use the channel volumes?
On the system master, you mean?
Yes. Overall system master.
I would say crank the system master to 8 and use the channel volumes maybe, but you can listen to it both ways and you decide. Or either that or put the channel masters at 5 and then use the system volume, but listen to it both ways. Sometimes I find it a little punchier if you have the system volume up high and then the other one's lower. Listen, use your ears, listen to it, decide.
100%. Hey, Rob. Hey, Equinox. It goes to 5 volts and sags like a bitch. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it's the way to do it. We're nearly through the questions, Dave. This is getting right. We're right at the end of the chat here. Favorite classic Marshall mob, and it's not a Friedman lead first.
I mean, like a good old Jose is great.
Yeah, hard to beat. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know very many others, to be honest. Really, there were,
I like the one of the best sounding Jose's. I've never heard one in person. I've never had that luxury, but obviously listened to a lot of clips.
Soon.
Yeah, well, one day. I'll come and visit you, and then show me yours. That amp, the Richard Fortis amp.
Yeah, it sounded good.
Which was traditional, like post-tone stack master, right? No diodes, just the gain stage in front, the Plexi. That thing sounded just awesome.
Had a couple little varying specs that actually I think maybe were done by someone else.
Really?
But minor things, really minor things. It was basically that standard thing. I have it all written down.
Was the rest of the amp just a straight up super lead with a 4700 picofarad bright cap and all that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 0.68 presence cap.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Actually, it sounds pretty good on Jose's, the 0.68 presence cap. Because there's no, depth. There's no thump or depth or whatever you want to call it, resonance.
Have you used a 6.8 in any of your amps, Dave?
No.
No.
You know what? If you have that resonance circuit, I don't think you want the 0.68. It doesn't work very well, I don't think. Well, maybe if you vary the. See, this is what how Cameron used to do like a 500 picofarad, which I think he got from Bogner, as the resonance cap. And then maybe it was an option for a a 0047 cap, but it has a resistor in series with it, so it's not quite as pronounced.
Yep.
And if you're looking at like an Ecstasy, it's a 500 picofarad for the resonance circuit that's in there.
Excursion.
Excursion.
Yeah.
But you got to put like, to get any kind of beef out of that, it's got to be a 1 meg across it all the way, to make it work.
Make sure that it's working. Yeah.
But I think, like maybe with the 0.68 presence cap, that tends to be a little fatter sounding, and then you don't need like the big fat thump or resonance circuit, and it's too much. So if I don't put a resonance circuit in, I kind of like the 0.68 cap for the presence. It's just a teeter-totter, man, of everything.
What's your
know what
50,
I mean? It's like,
you
do one thing here and you got to do something here.
Your 50 watt Plexi, 0.1 or a 0.68 in that on the presence?
0.1.
0.1, yeah.
Well, all Plexis were pretty much 0.1s. It was just later in the later 70s, mid 70s, it switched for a little while and then went back to 0.1.
Yeah. So when you say like real Plexi, not metal panel Plexis.
No, not well, a Plexi or
Plexi,
an early or up through 73. Yeah. I worked on a lot of those amps.
Definitely. I bet. They still keep coming in the door too. I bet.
They have a certain smell when you melt the solder in them. I can't explain what that smell is, but it's kind of pleasing.
It's kind of it's almost got a sweetness to it.
Yeah, it's like old. It has this I can't explain it.
I know what you mean, man. I know it. Final few questions here, guys. I think you played with the LND 150s, Dave, as a gain stage. I mean, I've got the Fit Boost. I've had played with that.
They can be quite cool. And in fact, I have a little proto board of a circuit that I want to use. There's some guys out there that have done. Have you seen that? Like the
800,
the 800 thing. It's quite good, right?
Yeah.
And if you extrapolate the first gain stage, the Marshall gain stage that he voiced with all the diodes and everything, I have a little board that I'm intending to try. You can't get any LNDs right now anyway. So, I mean,
correct.
So maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah. LNDs, the great shortage.
It is. It's like, mate, last year it was the tube shortage. Now it's the LND 150 LNDs. Shortage of 2023.
There's still a tube shortage, to be honest, but in production quantities, there's a tube shortage. Still,
right.
When you think if you make 5,000 to 7,000 amps a year, think how many 12AX7s are used.
Man,
let's say average amp is 4 to 5 12AX7s an amp.
Yeah, man, it just blows my mind.
So think of how many that is, and think out of that how much more it actually is of all the failures of 12AX7s and things that aren't quite right. Like there's a. So take that number and then not double it.
But, that's just the Friedman number. So if you think about all the other brands
that's just the Friedman number. So then you tack on Soldano, Tone King, Morgan, Synergy. There's a lot of preamp tubes and a lot of power tubes.
This makes me laugh. SM7 shortage, thanks to you guys. Hey, Brad.
Well,
yeah,
and every other broadcaster ever known to mankind.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, SM7s are awesome. I mean, I'm for my podcast. I so we use so I'm really like spoiled here. So I use the SM7 into a BAE API 312 mic pre into an actual real distressor into my UA interface.
Oh,
well, I had the stuff sitting here anyway.
Oh,
So I
man,
used to use just a distressor on it in the UA console. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute, I got the real thing here. Why don't I just use that?
man, that makes my setup sound primitive. I'm
Oh,
just
and then
straight.
I also have for my SM7, I have a cloud lifter, little preamp box that, you know, is because they're so low gain, you know.
They are low gain. I've just got mine straight into the Apollo Twin, and I'm using plugins to.
It works, but you got to have the gain cranked up on the Apollo,
all the way,
and then you might be even adding more gain on the plugins, right?
Yeah, I got a channel strip plugin with it all the way up, the gain all the way up, and then I've got a 1176 kind of compressor with it, with the with the ins and the out pretty high, to be honest, to get it up to them, because they are super low gain.
If you get one of those little cloud lifter little preamp boxes, you just provide it phantom power, and then it boosts the output. It's quite good, actually. I think it's good.
Are they expensive?
$100 and some, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
under $200. It's like buying a pedal.
Yeah, and about the
only not as fun, really. It just sits here next to your mic, and it's just kind of sits there like a box on your thing. I got a wild hair on my ass one day. I'm like, you know what? I'm sick of having to crank that mic preamp so high. So
yeah,
let's do it. The APIs, the real API though, has got a lot of gain to it.
So is that API thing sitting in a, like, is it one of those little vertical?
No, I have it's an old single rack space made by A Designs, which was has a 2500 series and a single rack space. So I have that and a Maris mic preamp. I also have a real 1176 sitting in front of me too. And an Allen Smart bus compressor too. So I got a bunch of good stuff. There was a time I was doing a bunch of mixing for people and stuff, but now I don't have any time to do it anymore.
Did you collect a bit of gear over that time?
Yeah. So and this is a really good, nice assortment. I can do anything I want with this stuff, and it's just a small amount of stuff. It's like the desk has like 2 4-space racks in it, and that's filled with stuff underneath the computer here. Yeah.
Awesome.
Perfect little desk.
That sounds great. Well, I think we're all the way through the questions, Dave. And we're at, what are we, 2.5 hours. So we might be at the end of this.
We threw them all?
I think so. I'm just looking through the chat here. Can you see anything we've missed?
I try to scroll to the bottom of the chat. I don't know. Distressor. Okay, so I'm talking about SM Chef. No, that's about it.
We might be through it.
Great show, guys.
John, thank you, John. Appreciate it, mate. Someone's like, give me a second, I'll think of a question. You better hurry up.
Come on, ask away, guys. Come on, get a couple more in here before we gotta go.
Yeah, here we go.
That's a good question. Generally not. Not generally. It's not used generally, but I mean, it has been used in the past for like tubes for like tremolo oscillators and things, and a few other amps over the years. Modern, probably not. 10-inch speakers, yes or no?
Yeah, I was just finding that. Where is that?
10-inch speakers are cool. I think they're underrated.
A 10-inch, a quad of 10s, yeah?
I always wanted a Marshall 810 cabinet. I never bought one. Kind of always wanted one because they kind of look cool. I need it like I need a hole in the head. I need another cabinet like I need a hole in the head.
Where are you going to put it, man? Come on.
I can't. I have 2 cabinets empty in the other room that I'm supposed to load speakers in, that I have speakers sitting in the closet for. And I haven't even done that. I have a vintage 412 at home, and then I have the ones behind me. I have to sell some.
What's in the glass?
Oh, the glass I was drinking? One
Yeah.
of various whiskeys from Michael Torin of my
It's an advent calendar.
The what?
It's called an advent calendar, yeah, with the
the advent calendar, that Michael got me with all the little whiskey bottles in it. Michael, that was a cool thing. If you're still listening, probably not. But it's taken me this long to actually finish it. But I have now completed the task. He did get it to me late, though. I didn't come at the beginning of the month like it was supposed to, because evidently the actual product was late to them this year, so they didn't get them out at the beginning like they were supposed to.
Questions are coming thick and fast now. Ever used the phasal inductor? No.
No.
Voicing a name? No.
Nope.
Here we go. Match quad of KT88s.
What about it? Where can you get
Where can I get them?
I had gotten some recently from on the wholesale front from CE Distribution, but they'd be amplified parts for
that's the retail
retail version of it. Although whether they still have some, I don't know. It was the EH KT88, which is a good KT88. You're going to pay a lot of money for it.
I was going to say, instead of EH,
they're like $40 a tube. So, I mean, that was painful on the buying them for the 12 tubes I had to buy for that. And the best part is the first gig, the one amp went out and the tube failed.
Totally. This question, so Tyler's question about the Allison Chains tone was about the gear used on Black gives way to Blue rather than the new recording. There's some fat guitar sounds on that album.
I don't remember. I mean, it was a bunch of different amps that Nick used with him. I don't remember all of what it was. I know at the time it was before pre-Friedman. So I'm not exactly sure what was used.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I came into his life again. I mean, I had done his rig years ago, but I came into his life again right when that record was coming out.
All right.
And I remember sitting in Jerry's Escalade, and he was playing the new record. And I remember him playing, I think it was Looking in View song. And I remember hearing it loud. And, when the guitars come in, down, it was crushing. And then you hear the snare, and the snare is just crushing. And I was like, fuck. That's a great record.
Fantastic. What's the weirdest thing you've found inside an amp?
I never found anything really weird inside an amp.
No, I found some really weird mods, but not.
I've seen some weird shit, but not anything weird. I would think though in Australia there's a chance you might find some more weird things.
Yeah, I've never had that. I mean, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Generally speaking, it's like there's bugs that'll kill you there.
Deadly spider or something ready to fucking pounce and kill you.
Yeah, it'll jump across the room and jump on you.
Yeah, no, I haven't. Or a snake or something like that. No, I haven't.
Yeah.
I found some weird. I think the weirdest mod thing that I ever saw was a hand etched PCB, so home etched PCB, which was blue tack to the side of the chassis inside. The only thing that was holding it on was a bit of blue tack. So it was easy to take out.
Stuff like that.
Easy to take out. It was good.
Stuff like that. At least you haven't had the pleasure of working on what was known as a metalhead mod.
What's
There's a
that?
modder called Metalhead that was here in the 80s. And he had Elan Metalhead mod, the Elan preamp and stuff. And in the amps, he embedded parts in what looked like a urinal cake. Like out of a urinal where they throw the thing in the urinal thing.
Yeah.
It was just a round little circle, parts embedded in wires coming out of this cake.
Oh, I've seen pictures of this. I've seen pictures of this. What is that?
I don't know what was in it.
Was it a way of
there was I know there was a gate in his amp, and some people said that gate was in that. Yeah, it was a way of gooping sort of his mod thing, but
it's like a disc.
Good luck fixing it. Yeah. If it breaks, good luck fixing it. You can't. It's done.
No. What do? You rip it out.
Yeah. I mean, I heard a couple of his amps that sounded okay, but it was just a nightmare inside. Just an utter nightmare. Like, how does this work even? I'm not sure.
Only thing to do is rip it out and start again.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob, I know you've been wanting us to answer this question. So Bob's become a very keen builder. I don't know if you see Bob Walker, Dave. He's in the DIY group in my Facebook group. He's always posting on his builds.
I know of him. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's what do you think of train wrecks? Well, we talked about that before, right?
I love the Liverpool. Liverpool is my favorite. Sound. Yeah, awesome Liverpool was by far my favorite. I've had the pleasure of playing through 3 originals. And they were all stellar.
All great.
Yeah. You saw the video that Pete Thorne did of that one.
Oh, right? Yeah, man. That just sounds unreal. It's lively.
Crazy. Yeah. Crazy good.
It just sounds wicked. Warwick, hey, the Mike No More. I mean, I've got one of those, the Mike No More boxes. They're freaking great. Yeah, they sound great. Is there a shortage down here? There must be. Dave,
we have them. I don't know why there's a shortage. If not, they're not ordering them then.
Must be. Did you ever do live sound?
Nope.
That's the question. Yeah, because you was as a live sound engineer, so he was the best. Of course. Right. What else we got here, guys?
I know there's a super chat here that says, "Why this hole first?" I have no idea what this means.
No. I don't know what that is. Gav, maybe you could clarify in the chat while we're still going. I don't know what that is, man. Where are we at here? Always thinking of modding the basement, but it really does do a clean thing I like. I'm just curious. Yeah, have you ever modded a basement, Dave?
I think maybe a long time ago I did some, but a lot of work. You got to change everything around, you know.
Did you see the Badlands launch? What did you think of it?
No, I didn't see that. What is that?
When was that? That just happened?
I don't know what that is. Badlands launch. Like the band?
I think that's what that means.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what they launched.
Hey, this is this might clarify. So John's on the money here. The whole first question. Yeah, good on you, John. we had no idea.
Yeah, I was like, okay, in some amps, in some of the amps, it's that way. So, well, some people's amps have, if you don't use that first, it shunts to ground the speaker jack.
Yeah.
Kind of a safety thing. Others, the reason I say that on like my Runt series is you have to use that first in order to disengage the load. So if you don't have a speaker cable plugged in,
Yeah.
there'll be a load. And if you use the other speaker jack, there's still a load with the speaker.
Yeah.
So it'll be lower in volume that way.
It's just like
it's a little trick.
PT15 is like
Yeah.
this. Yeah, the built-in load. So you've got to use, and you can actually use it to parallel in. You can have the load and the speaker cabinet together, right? And
you technically can do that on my Run 20 too.
Yeah, of course. Knocks a bit of volume off the top, yeah?
Yeah, it gets a little darker, though, with just a load resistor in there, but it'd be okay.
Yeah. Any Aussie guitarists that Dave likes? The first question is, can you name any Aussie guitarists?
Erwin Thomas.
Yeah, nice.
Or Jack Jones, as I knew him.
Yeah. How do you... Yeah, man. Awesome.
We have a long history together.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So see, you didn't think I was going to get...
No, Ben, I wouldn't have... that's fun. I'm blown away. I'm impressed. That's cool. Hey, I actually had a chat with Glenn Proudfoot a couple of days ago. So he's an Aussie guitarist. If you guys don't know who Glenn is, look him up. He is...
I know the name.
Unbelievable player. He was kind of hooked up with Victory amps for a while, Dave, or might even still be, actually. I'm not sure. But
okay.
Yeah, he's unreal. The Badlands Guitar Company. So Phil McKnight's
Phil McKnight's thing. What did I think of that? I don't know if I paid close enough attention to it, to be honest. I know they made a guitar overseas, correct? And they spec'd it out. And I mean, Phil's a cool guy. He knows what he's talking about. So I can imagine that they probably spec'd out something cool.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it. So
I don't really know a lot about it, so I can't really comment too much.
Yeah. Runt 25 combo. Is it Runt 20 combo, yeah?
Yeah. Why 25?
It's an extra 5, man. More is more? I don't know.
No, I don't know if you really notice the difference.
I don't think so either. 20 to 25 watts, you're not going to really...
Yeah.
Really going to... Nothing really.
Yeah, you're not going to notice.
Not going to. Yeah. Brad, well, for me, it has to be the scope in terms of an electronics tool. Oscilloscope, you just indispensable, I think.
Oscilloscope, Variac.
Yes, 100%.
I also have a really nice Fluke like combo meter that's a scope too. It's an older one.
Handheld job.
Love that. That's really useful in troubleshooting and tracing signal because you can see on the screen. You can measure voltage on the screen at the same time. See the
portable
form.
Yeah, it's portable.
Yeah,
which when you're working on rigs, I guess it's like super important. Yeah.
It's this big guy.
Oh yeah, cool.
And it's a scope. Well, if I could read that. 80. Yeah, here we go. Glasses, guys.
Oh man, I had mine on the whole time.
867B. They don't make this exact model anymore, but you can get it used.
So it'll put a scope up, a little scope display on it, like LCD.
It has on the LCD a little scope display, but it'll also have so if you're reading voltage AC or something on a signal.
Yep.
So you'll see the voltage AC signal, but then you'll also see the scope signal. And you can actually see the waveform and stuff. And you can it's really faster almost than the oscilloscope to trace something through a circuit real quick.
Yeah.
So I like this thing. Peter Aarons turned me on to this. And
yeah.
It's cool.
Yep.
I like it. It's kind of big and bulky, but it's good.
Here's the more Aussie guitar players for the guys that might know or don't know. So Leon.
Oh yeah.
Leon's over in Perth.
Mm-hmm.
Keep an eye out on Leon's channel. He's going to be reviewing my new amp in the next couple of weeks, so that'll happen. Tommy Emmanuel, of course, and of course Hoss. Simon was Simon was in the chat just before. Actually, I don't know if he's still listening, but yeah, Simon's. So we've got the Melbourne Guitar Show coming, which is like Dave. It's like a Aussie NAMM, basically. So it's been held here in Melbourne in about a month from now, and there's always acts that'll play. So Simon, I think the last one, 2019, Simon did the Van Halen VH1 from track after track.
Yeah. I think I saw some of this.
Yeah, it's been on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So this time he's doing. He's going to do an Yngwie Malmsteen. He's doing the trilogy album, front to back, note for note, as if he likes to set himself a challenge. Yeah, but he'll do it. It's going to be killer.
Yeah, I imagine my friend Charles Cilia will probably be.
Yeah,
show guitars there.
Definitely, Charles. As I've been chatting to Charles quite a bit, Dave, over the last month. So, yeah, he definitely
makes a beautiful guitar, man.
Oh, man, 100%.
I have one.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I have one. I don't have it here. Otherwise, I'd show it on air, but it's at home. He made me like one of his size down 335E hollow body things, and it's got this. It's like trans black with this crazy top, and he put Friedman in the inlay on it.
Beautiful.
And it doesn't really get any better as far as a guitar than Charles's guitars. It just doesn't get any better. It might get different, but it doesn't get better.
Mm-hmm.
It's every little detail. I mean, it's like flame maple binding, and it's crazy. Perfect.
I know what you mean, man. That's the first time I saw, because he's always got a fantastic stand set up at the show. With the right lighting and all that kind of stuff. I remember the first time I went to the show, which was a while ago now, and I walked around the corner, and there was a stand. There's guitars that they just
You're
make
like,
you,
holy shit.
They just make you stop. You just stop walking. And you just go, oh shit, man, that looks so good.
Yeah. Charles is a cool dude.
So Scott, there's this Urban Thomas. So Scott plays in a band. Sorry, and he's in the Screaming Jets, which is one of the the big Aussie bands that are still on the tour circuit. So I think that was in response before. So it's like Scott was talking to Erwin about you, Dave.
Aha!
On the weekend, there you go.
I've known him a long time.
Favorite Aussie guitarist, Angus Young. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah. Where we got here, Leon? Yeah. He uses those rotten modelers, yeah.
Is this still live? Someone asked. I think. Well, you're on it, so yeah, I think so. Well, I guess that's it.
I think we're there.
I think we're done. We have to stop now.
Yeah.
3 hours.
Yeah, we're there. Brett Garcia, of course, just finally.
It's early for you, though.
Well, it's just gone 4:00 in the afternoon, so
that's still early.
But 3 hours is a good. It's a good.
Good chunk of your day.
A good way to put a line under it.
Yeah.
All right.
That was fun.
Well, that was cool. Thanks, Dave. I'm glad you reached out overnight and we could do this. So. And we wish Mark a speedy recovery.
Yes, we'll be back with some guest at some point in time. I don't know what, but yep. Either that or we'll have another Ask Dave, and in the meantime, while we're setting up other ones. I actually had talked about to Charles about coming on too.
Oh, you should do that.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
I saw him not that long ago here. He was here. He stopped through. So
he stopped in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, you should do that.
I should. I often set things up and then forget about them.
Yeah. You should definitely do that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we're at literally at the 3-hour mark, so we'll wind it up here. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. You want to hang on the line, Dave?
Yeah, sure.
Cheers,
See you
guys.
guys. Cheers. Bye.
See ya.